Peace, everyone. There's some people here already. All right, cool. So if you can hear me, just let me know, please. Just throw a Let me bring up the chat. I think it'll pop up. Just throw a one in the chat if I am audible. If I am audible, please throw a one in the chat or something in the chat. Just let me know that you can hear me clearly. All right. That delay life must be real. Loud and clear. Okay, there it is. Oh, the chat was down. Okay, cool. Thank you, Sister Kashia. Yeah. Greetings, all. So, again, this is our strong our reading of our Torah, really of the word for the strong. Sometimes we use different precepts and whatnot as we're reading through, but in this instance, what I wanted to begin with was Genesis, right? And I'm gonna give a little bit of background first before we get right into it, because we're gonna go right into it. All right. A lot of times when we're dealing with or trying to deal with deeper levels of awareness and deeper levels of consciousness, one of the things that we really strive to get away from are ideas of religion or religiosity. And sometimes, as they say, we throw the baby out with the bathwater. Such a violent and savage term, but it's sometimes we do violent and savage things because of what we cast away. And a lot of times we end up casting away things that we have not really, peace everyone, that we haven't really understood first. That's the big issue. We'll kind of skim over things and then we don't understand it. And sometimes there's a level of lazy scholarship where we're just like, that didn't resonate with me. I'm moving on to something else. And sometimes the thing that we move on to is really just of a lower vibration. And that's why it may speak to us in a stronger way or in a different way. So obviously, when we're speaking about what some people will call ATR, African traditional religions, or African consciousness, or African awareness, or Afrocentricity, African mindset, or African worldview. You could just go on right down a list, right? They're all fictitious statements. They really just exist within concepts, right? But the point is, when we are exploring those sort of ideas, a lot of times we want to throw away everything that we consider to be produced by the Western mind. And sometimes we don't realize that the source material is not produced by the Western mind, but rather the interpretation is produced by the Western mind. And for most of us, and the reason I'm giving this background, because as the title says, I'm going to be going into Genesis, right? And sharing some ideas around the beginning of Genesis. We're not going to obviously go through the whole book, but most of us have been taught Genesis through a Christian perspective, and it's wrong. Sometimes we forget that we're reading an interpretation, or rather a translation, and not actually reading an interpretation or reading source material, but reading something that's been translated. And not only that, oftentimes we're given the information by someone who doesn't understand it anyway, right? So then when it comes to us, it doesn't resonate, or we just too lazy to really try to figure out what's being said, and we go somewhere else, right? That's been one of our biggest mistakes, as a potential nation. That's been one of our biggest mistakes, because one of the things that we end up doing is we tend to run to people who are spiritless. So like when you go from there and then you say, okay, well, I'm going to go into consciousness, or again, pro-blackness, African centeredness, whatever. The aim in that mind space is to remove as much Yah, or as you may know the term God, but to remove as much God as possible, right? So you're stuck in the middle. If you go to church, it's like all this super hyper God, And if you come out of it into consciousness, there's no God, you know. So it's just all these ideas of my ancestors and this and that, but nothing is really scientific, concrete, logical, or really can really be really proven historically. Even though will say things like, oh, African centered, but what does that really mean when the term Africa is not really even that old, you know? So we kind of get a sense that we're still walking in a whole bunch of mystery. We're still walking in a whole bunch of confusion. And that's why a lot of times people just don't know where to go. They don't know where to start. So that's why we're starting with Genesis, right? So when we're dealing with Genesis, we're dealing with the beginnings, right? That's essentially what the word means. When you see that gen for Genesis, that gen or that gen comes from genos, which is also related to genus, where you get terms like genes or terms like generations, right? So that's why when you're reading certain things, and we'll get into that, you'll see, and these are the generations of. These are the generations of, because Genesis is talking about the generations, and what generations represents or means rather is family. Is direct. That's the direct translation in that. When you're dealing with Genesis or generations, and I'll get into that in a second. Just give me a second. I just want to make sure all of my stuff is on Do Not Disturb. All right. Yeah, and Sister Kashi, I think she put the like and share thing, so I'm just going to reiterate so she's not alone. Please like, share, and feel free to ask stuff in the comment section. I should also share with you as well that tomorrow, well, really later, yeah, tomorrow, because we haven't reached sundown yet. I'll also be presenting on our New Life Global Ministries YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed there, go over there and subscribe, right? Because every first Sabbath or every first Saturday, I present publicly. So tomorrow being the fourth, I'll be presenting tomorrow, right? So you're going to get a double dose if you want it. If you want it, it's there for you, a double dose, all right? So let me just put that out there early. You can follow up. So anyway, like I said, when we're dealing with Genesis, we're dealing with the beginning. And if you consider it, for many people, when they're coming from a Christian perspective, or and a lot of times not even that Christian, but just from the perspective of what we receive a lot of times in the West, they don't begin at the beginning. They begin in the middle. They'll start with the New Testament, and they kind of ignore everything in the back. And I mean, these are some of the nonsensical things that we do, that when you think about it, it's like, yeah, because when do you ever start a book in the middle of the book? That doesn't even make sense. Like, wouldn't you turn to the first page and then read to the last page? Like, wasn't it probably put in a specific order for a specific reason, right? But again, sometimes these are the things that we don't ask ourselves. These are the nonsensical places that we end up, unfortunately, right? So, in any event, like I said, we are dealing with the concepts or the ideas within, I'll leave that alone, within Genesis, right? And Genesis meaning the beginning. And that's why you notice the first couple of lines starts within the beginning. That beginning or those generations are important because what it's specifying to us is family, right? So everything that you're reading in the beginning, and I know that it's not taught this way, right? It's not taught this way for several reasons, because if it's taught the right way, oppressed people will know where to start, right? So it's just like when we start to go into African consciousness or African centeredness, we start with whatever we have. It's almost like you go back in time and you look at leaders of old. A lot of them were Catholics or Baptists or whatever, because that was what was available to them. And I'm talking about our leaders, our leaders as a Negro people. That's what they had in front of them to work with, right? And yes, Negro is a whole lot less offensive than calling us black. So they worked with what they had. And then as we develop and as we grow, that should expand, right? And the Bible is kind of placed in the same kind of format. It unfurls. So in the beginning, when you read it, the statements are very short. This happened, that happened, that happened. And then as you go further, the poetry of it begins to expand out more to there's more definition, there's more ideas. It gets more elaborate, which is really a reflection of what our life is. In the beginning, things are very simple. And then as we go, they get a bit more detailed and they unfurl. So you start to see some of the genius, in the penmanship, just in that, just in how it's laid out, right? But like I said, we're dealing with the beginning. So where do we put our foot down first? And if it was taught the right way, like I said, we would know where to start, instead of just, well, I'm gonna go back to Africa and find whoever will take me in. That's what I'll do. And a lot of times we call things into our lives that don't necessarily turn out so well because we just want to be a part of somewhere, be a part of something. So the way that we're taught this word in America is to exclude us from what we were already a part of. That's the trick, right? And it's right in the very beginning. And if you know how to read it from the very beginning, then you straight. You got it straight off the bat. So we're going to start from the beginning. And like I said, again, Genesis is the generations of, or the family of, or the beginning of. It means to create, to bring forth, but by way of family. So what we're reading in the beginning is all about family. And it's the same thing as the word oxygen, right? Oxygen, oxy means acidic or means acid, and gen means to bring forth, begat, or to produce. So when you're to oxygenate is to bring forth acid or to produce acid or an acidic environment. All right? Real simple, right? It's real simple. But I'm sure I'm going to use my phone to read. But I'm sure a lot of us, when we were first taught or somebody read it to, I didn't grow up in church. So I'm just saying a lot of us, I don't really know, to be honest with you. But I'm pretty sure in church, they just read it and then you rocked out, and that was it. You didn't really get a whole bunch of explanation. I just know that at one point I was in church. I did, as a musician, I was able to enter into that environment, and I was like, a lot of this is ridiculous. Like, they're not teaching anything. You know what I mean? But I never really had that like church boy or church kid experience, anything like that. I just like to study, But so we're going to start right here with Genesis 1:1. That's our beginning, right? And I'm going to walk you through in a similar way that I walk through, right? So to say you read something, like I often say, like with my own work, if you can't teach it, you didn't read it. So just to read it and be like, yeah, I read it, I got that, what? Nothing resonated. That's not enough. You got to dissect and break things down. You can't be intellectually lazy if you're going to be around me. All right. So we're going to go kind of slow. All right. Just to be clear, we're going to go kind of slow. Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Okay? So that's just the first 4 verses, right? Many of us have heard that before, boom. So basically just gives us an idea that there was some gigantic creature at some point who created this paradise somewhere, and then also created this planet. And the planet was maybe just like dark and murky, and upon the face of the deep, was his spirit had moved upon the face of the waters. Most time we don't even know what the heck that means, so we just skip past that one. Then we go, and God said, let there be light. So that means now sunlight came. There was bright sunlight. We rocking, and there was light. So now we understand that through the word, God speaking, wow, stuff happened. Most of us, this is how we got it, right? And God saw the light that it was good because, yeah, light's good. I could see stuff. And God divided the light from the darkness. All right. So there's day and night, basically, even though he says that later. So, of course, everything I just said is wrong. Right. So even though it's wrong, that's how it was given to us, a lot of us. So let's go back to the beginning again and let's get it right. Because, again, like I said, if we get it right, then we get a strong indication of not only our own identity, but we get a strong indication of our positioning in the work. All right. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Right. Remember, now we're reading a translation. So it didn't say in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's how someone chose to translate it. The first word was Bereshit. Okay, Bereshit is the very first word that we're going to deal with. Now, the reality is, if you dealt with the word Bereshit, your whole experience with the book would then change. From the first word. See, that's what's so beautiful about the poetry of it. And, when we read it, we try to figure out, is this a book of allegories? Is it a book of history? Is it a debate? Like, is this a book that's a debate between the Sumerians and the Hebrews? And they said, well, I got my story. I got my story. Is it that? Because we read the tales of Gilgamesh and we read about the flood and different things like that. But one of the things when we read about in the Hebraic tale is that it's a lot more detailed. And whereas you have more of a monotheistic representation in the Hebraic and the Sumerian and the Mesopotamian, you have more of a polytheistic representation where the gods also and the actors in it don't really have the same kind of morality that they have in the Hebraic tale. So one of the things that you get early on is okay, the Hebraic tale is like the encyclopedia to the dictionary, where the Mesopotamian would be like the dictionary. The Hebraic tale has a lot more information to draw from because they were able to pull from so many different places and say, this is right, that's right, that's right, and lace it together in a very genius fashion. All right, so again, like I said, we're beginning with the very beginning, Bereshit, in the beginning. Bereshit, that's the first word. We didn't even get to in the beginning God created. Don't worry about that yet. It doesn't matter yet because we got to get the first word down pat, right? So let's do this. We're gonna deal with the Hebrew for a second, okay? Let's just deal with the Hebrew. I am casting from my tablet, my iPad, so I can't write. So I'm just gonna write the letters for you, right? Just to do it like that. Hopefully they'll come out looking the same on your side. Okay. So Bereshit, the first letter of the word Bereshit is that. That's the B. Okay. Well, what we call B, but that would be bet. Okay. Willfully, y'all can see that and it's in the right direction. If it's in the right direction, the hook is let me see, how would it be for you? Well, for me, I guess it would be for me. The part that goes like this would be to your left. The hook would be to your left. They are the same. Okay, cool. So that's Bereshit. That's B. Now it may look different. Like if you go look it up right now, and yes, I'm writing on an envelope because I don't like to take out paper. I don't throw away envelopes. I actually collect them when I get them because save a tree. So I've always done that since I was a young child. These envelopes are great for scrap paper. You don't have to just throw them out. So anyway, so this is your first letter of what's being said, Bereshit. And because of the accents that will be put on this would be pronounced Be, right? Now, why is that important? Because Be means in, okay? Be, in, okay? We're talking about Hebrew now. And then our next letter is Resh. Actually, let me put it next to it. So Be. Okay. So now that gives us the bir. Okay, those are our first two letters. And willfully, like I said, like you said, it flips back the other way when you get it. So that's good. So that's our first two letters, right? Be means house, or it means in. Resh also is where we get Rosh, where we also get Ras, which many of you are familiar with. We're told that Ras means king, but Ras primarily also means head. Rosh means head, or Resh means head. Rosh, like right now we're in the season of Rosh Hashanah, right? That's the holiday that's present right now. Rosh is head, right? So what we have so far, if Be is in and R is Resh or Rosh, which is head, we have in head. Then our next character, and again, for those of you coming in late, I'm speaking, I'm writing, Hebraic cursive. With the print, so you might look it up and be like, that doesn't look like what I'm used to looking at, right? That's because really print, you don't really use print unless it's in like a book, but the normal person, you write script, right? And you don't really use accents either. Like when you first learning Hebrew, or like for children, they'll use more print and they'll use more accents. Peace, Cassie Durwin. They use more accents, but when you writing it regularly, you don't do that, right? So the next letter is Aleph. Aleph. So we have Be, Resh, Aleph. Okay? And you are probably maybe used to seeing Aleph something like this. Just so you'll know if you look it up, like you're not going crazy. See what I wrote there? That's probably what you're used to seeing. Okay, but that's the print version of Aleph. This one that I just circled, that's the cursive. We always going to use cursive. You know what I mean? So we have Be, Resh, Aleph, and Aleph it means many things, but it's like alpha. It means the supreme. Is signified by the number one. The symbol of it represents an ox, and the idea, or more so an ox that's yoked. So it's the idea of the older or wiser, or the more developed, the more evolved, being yoked or tied to the lower, right? So that's why you have, if you look at it in the print, you have the upper line and you have the lower line, and then in between you have the yoke. That's connecting both of them, okay? That's the concept there. So we only 3 letters in, but we got a lot of information, and I haven't even really started to break things down yet, right? And then we have Shin. Okay? Shin. Okay, so we have, so far, Be, Resh, Aleph, Shin. So we have Beresh. We're almost there. Okay. I hold them. I mean, my writing. You get, just look them up. You'll get a clearer version if you just look it up online. Plus, I wrote it on an envelope. I'm just grabbing what's next to me. But if you want to copy mine, you copy mine. But I know I don't really have neat handwriting. And then our last letter is Tav. Tav. Okay. So now we have our full word of Bereshit. That's what it said. It didn't say in the beginning. It said Bereshit. Now Shin, which you have here, is symbolic of fire. It also represents what you see, but it's symbolic of fire. Oh, I'm sorry. I left a letter out. I just realized. I don't have any room. Let me cross it out. Give me 1 second. Let me cross that out. Now, how did I know I left a letter out? This is a good little lesson, right? I knew I left the letter out because I know what the word means. And what I have, those letters there, don't equal up to the formula. Oh, my pen's running out. The letters that I have didn't equal up to the formula of what the word actually means. See, that's important. See, what you're reading in Genesis, what you're reading throughout the book are formulas, but you're not taught that way. You're taught like, oh, this is a good story about morality. Or, when you're told that somebody did something in the book, it's presented to you just as something as mundane as like, and then I grabbed the paper. And when I grabbed the envelope, and on the third day I wrote, it's, they mess with your mind like that. So you can't figure out what's happening. Right? So this is the formula. This is actually, and this is a numeric formula as well. That if you add these numbers up, because they all have a numeric value, it adds up to 913, right? Which I'll break down another time. I don't want to get into it right now. But this is all 913, which is the 13. 9 is the amplifier, and 13 is our number, right? Our nation's number, our people, right? So, Be, Rush, Aleph, Shin, Yod. This is the one I left out. That's how I knew my formula was off. Tav. Now, Yod or Yud represents the hidden hand of the Most High. It's the smallest letter in all the alphabets, and it's kind of put forward, like this. It looks like this, like if you were to write it without the arm, just this part, right? So this pen has lasted a long time. I think about it. It's a company I used to work for many years ago. They're out of business now. But back in like 1999, 90, I was their network administrator, and I designed the whole network for the company. And we had these pens. I just realized how old this pen is. This pen is over 20 years old. And I'm like, man, pen ran out. Ungrateful, It's like, I've been here for 20 years. Wow. But anyway, I hated working there too. But so we have Be, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yod, Tov. All right, now let's get into it. And like I said, you weren't taught like this, because if you were taught like this, you wouldn't be floundering around not knowing what direction to go in, right? So we start with Be, which we said earlier. Willfully, you all wrote these things. Oh, it's still working. All right. Just need a little love. Be gives you that in. So really, a lot of times when you see the word, you'll see it as Re, sheet, Reshit, right? Because the Be is like a prefix, right? So it's like saying sure, ensure. Wind, rewind. It's the Be. The Be is that prefix, if you will, right? But that's also debatable. There's been some scholars, again, because you'll see there's a lot to this that keeps you away from knowing stuff. And yes, Reshit. That's a curse word. That's what you thought. But it's not. It's not. They lied to you. So we have Resh, which is head. We have Aleph, which is supreme, which also represents the Elohim or God, as some of you may say it, or the Most High or the Supreme. We have Shin, which is the sea, or which is fire, because fire, as I taught in our new spiritual training, the Shin or the fire element represents the things that we see in the world. That's our visuals. Okay. Then we have Yud, which is the hand of, or the controlling presence of the Almighty, or the hand of God, the controlling, hand of Yah. Then we have Tov. Tov represents the law. Okay, Tov represents the law. Now, let's get back into it. So, did it say in the beginning? No, it's not really what it said. Now, mind you, we just on one word. We're on one word. We're not even through the whole verse. The whole verse was in the beginning, God created. We didn't even get to God created. We're just still on in the beginning, right? This is the way I study, just to be clear, right? So, let me get it right here. In the head, the Supreme saw the hand of God's law. That's what it said. Why didn't they translate it that way? For many reasons. For many reasons, they didn't translate it that way. Now, I'm just giving you, I'm not adding anything. I'm not giving you extra interpretation or anything. I'm just telling you this is actually how you read Hebrew. That's why it's important to learn the language. We're learning from a translation, and it's like, like there's a brother I know, he wrote a book. I don't want to tell you about that book. But anyway, when you're learning from translations, a lot of times you don't get what you're supposed to get. So another concept for resh is mind. Mind. And then we have in. We'll keep the in. In is cool. In the mind. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm off screen. Let me hold it like this. In the mind, the Almighty saw the supreme law. Now, another term for Yud, or a concept for Yud, or the hand of the Almighty, or the hand of Yah, or the hand of God, is Israel. This is where it gets funky. It's about to get funky. This is why you weren't taught like this. Now let's go through it again. In the mind, the Almighty saw Israel's law. That's the first word. So now, where's my phone? All right. So now when we read the verse, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And like I told you, the picture we have is some big alien in a robe somewhere creates this crystal paradise up in the air and creates a planet with a bunch of worms and trees on it. Right? And if we would have said that, I guess as young people, maybe you coming up in church, if you would have said that in Sunday school, like, yeah, that's it. You got it. Right? But it didn't say anything was produced. It said that in the mind of the Creator, these things were seen. That's what it said. So what does that mean? That means there was no physical creation of anything as of yet. This was an idea in the mind of the supreme intelligence. That's what the first verse means. But what was the idea in the mind of the supreme intelligence? That Israel would keep the law. Esh-Ra-El, or as some know, Isis Ra and El, would keep the law. Then you have to ask yourself, you don't even have to ask yourself, I could prove it to you. Well, who's Israel? Who's that? Who was the Almighty thinking about when the Almighty said Israel? Who were they thinking? Who was it thinking about? But let's move on, because we haven't even gotten to the word the Almighty yet. We've only gotten up to in the beginning. We haven't gotten any further than that, right? I haven't given you the geometry on the word, on the letters, and then there's so much symbolism in them, and there's so much we could break down just with the first word of the book. Because the other concept here too is as well, because there's been debate as to what the root of Bereshit is. If it actually is Rashit, because it ends in a tav, which grammatically is not normally what you would do in ancient Hebrew, right? So what it really is, it's like graffiti. This particular word breaks grammatical rules. And why does it break grammatical rules? So you can flip it around. it's you gotta the mind of the creator is much different. So Bereshit, right? You also have bara, right? In the beginning, you have bara. Bara means to create or to put. Also, it means power, to create or to put power into what? Into the law of Israel, to create or put power, right? But we know that we're dealing with a mentation. So like when we read things later or learn about the Hamitic laws later, and we haven't gotten to chaos yet. We haven't even gotten to chaos, Brother Chris. But when we read, we're going to get there though. When we read about the Hermetic laws and we read about the law of mentalism and all things of the mind, now you're starting to understand where that comes from. Because the Most High had the potential of mind and consolidated and compressed the potential of those thoughts, which could be considered chaos, into a concept. What was the concept? Heaven and earth. Now, but let's get to the next word, God. In the beginning, God. Now, didn't say God. God is a Greek term. That ain't what it said. It said Elohim. That's what it said. It said Elohim. Now, why is that significant? Because you might just say, well, either way, it's something above me, right? Yeah, but then you missed the point, right? You missed what's really being said. So we have Al or El, and Al starting there or El is Aleph and Lamed. All right, those are the two letters, right? So you already know Aleph. You got that one, right? Number one. And this is considered a silent letter. Now, why is it silent? Because it represents the Almighty. So it's the unheard, but it still has an effect on everything. It has power on everything. And it's the one, it's the prime. And then you have, I need something to write on. I'll write on my leg. Then you have Lamed. Okay, Al or El. That's why when you hear or you've heard me teach before, when you see Al or you see El, it's the same thing, right? So you'll find that things that have a divine placement will always have that El. Whether it's a name of an angel or Elijah, Eli, Ella. Names like that, they're a divine name. But then you have to learn to flip as well, right? Because remember, Israel was scattered throughout all the nations. So you find the divine people all over. So then when you hear people with names like Lee is a form of El. Lee was part of the ancient line of priests, right? Like, yeah, Bruce Lee, you see? But it's, again, a derivative of El, okay? So we have in the beginning, or in the mind, the Elohim. What does Elohim mean? Well, Elohim, when you have that im present, it represents plurality. So straight off the bat, when they say things like, sometimes when you hear people debating, they'll be like, the book doesn't make sense because it says, let us make man. Who was he talking to? Was he talking to the angels with him? They'll start making up stuff. No, that's because you read in a translation that you're not really understanding. It never spoke in the book. It never, ever spoke about the Most High from a singular sense. From the very first line of the book, it said group. In the beginning, the Elohim. Now, what is the Elohim? Again, once you have, I'm starting from the back. Plural. So you already know you're not talking about one entity, right? And then we have Eloha, right, which would be the form. So some say gods and goddesses, but the thing is, when you say gods and goddesses, it's really a fictitious statement because it's just gods. There's no goddesses. Goddesses is a diminutive form of God. So if I have a feminine nature and a masculine nature within me, and I call myself God, and then I call myself goddess, then I am now diminishing the feminine part of me. You see, now, of course, because I came forth as a man, the masculine part is already more pervasive than my feminine part. That's from the rip. But when you're dealing with divine energies who did not come forth through production, but just are, they just be, there's an equality there, and you see that through the works. So there's just God. Now, what is a God? A being of great influence. That's a God, right? So the reason why it's kind of a weak term when people say, "Oh, it means the gods and goddesses," because like my car could be the god and goddess. There's so many there's so many things that's wrong with it, right? But look at it like this: in many senses, you have to understand, because the Elohim created in the mind, Bereshit, the Elohim created in the mind, that this is a trickling down of higher functioning energy to lower functioning energy. So when it says in the beginning he created the heaven and earth, we might picture a physical earth, a physical heaven, but this is a concept in the mind where it's still divine and pure. You have to understand that. That's the important thing. It's still pure where it exists right now. It has not been aged or tarnished through the time of matter and substance, or through the chronicle experience of matter and substance. It's still pure. So the Elohim are those higher functioning entities. Now, what exactly are they? We don't know. Nobody knows. Anybody tells you no, they lying. So your Elohim could be your parents. Straight up, your Elohim could be your parents. What are your parents? The masculine and feminine expression of what you are. And when those masculine and feminine come together and they both release and mix their orgasmic fluids into each other and release them outside of themselves, rain comes. I'll explain that a little bit later. But that's what rain is. Rain is the combining of the masculine and feminine fluids, right? And we'll get into that in later in later chapters when we get our first rain, right? When we, you read about that as well. And prior before that, it was just a mist that was on the earth's surface. But we haven't even gotten to a physical earth yet. We basically just have higher functioning beings that's thinking. They're like, heaven and earth. That would be good. That would be cool. Well, actually, I don't even know if it's good yet. I don't know if it's good, but I have the idea. So in the beginning, the Elohim, which is, again, masculine and feminine higher functioning entities. How many? We don't know. Multitude. Now, why is the concept of the multitude important? Because it speaks about the ubiquity of the Elohim. So if we say one, if we say two, if we say four, if we say eight, like the Ogdod, which we have in our Kemetic law, or even in our Dogon system, it immediately localizes it to a space. But if we say Elohim and we don't know how many, then there's an implication there through the metaphor that it's everywhere, that they're everywhere, they're all over. So they're ubiquitous, right? That's the point. So it's not until we get a trickle down into actual names that now we get some level of segregation, which you're going to see not so much in this chapter, but when we get to the next chapter, right? So for right now, we're dealing with all the Elohim. We're not dealing with Yahuwah, or what some may know as Jehovah. We haven't even gotten that far. We're dealing with the crew. The crew is thinking. They're thinking as one. Yo, heaven and earth. No one has produced it yet. They've only thought it in the mind. As we know by Bereshit, it was right there. So if you were reading the Aramaic in the beginning, or if you were reading the Hebrew, you would have never been confused about it. It's just that once we read it in the English, and then we grow up in a society where those of us who are melanin dominant in America, our identity it's hard fought to keep it away from us. They're never going to tell you that this is what it actually meant, that Israel will keep the law in the mind of the Most High. Because then now you'll start to search for who's Israel, or who's Isis, Ra, and El. Where did that come from? And then once you start doing that, you go, oh my goodness. From the very first line in the book is about me, right? So we'll go a little further. So we just one word down, and I haven't even broken down Elohim. For the sake of time, Bereshith was the important one. In the beginning, God, Elohim. So Bereshith, Elohim, created the heaven and the earth. Right. So now we know that also heaven is Shemaim. Shemaim, and in She you hear Shin. Remember the word Shin? So there's a concept of fire, right? Heaven and the earth. But this is still in the mind. Nothing has been produced yet. Heaven and the earth. So Shemaim, which also means sky, right? When we just dealing with our Hebrew just straight up. In the beginning, there was sky created, there was earth created. Now, earth translates into a word that means broken pottery, right? And specifically broken pottery. In ancient times, they used to deliver messages to each other through broken pieces of pottery. They would have pottery. They would write the message on it, just like how you see the Sumerian tablets. The clay tablets, and they would write the message on a tablet, and then literally somebody would run. Just like how we have bike messages and things like that, and they would run and deliver the message to this person, that person. So, why was the earth considered broken pottery? Why was the earth considered like a bunch of messages? We'll get into it, right? In the beginning, and keep in mind, we haven't even gotten off the second verse yet. And I'm literally at this point now moving faster. I didn't break down what created mean. I didn't break down what heaven means. I didn't break down what earth. I gave you a little bit of heaven and earth, but I'm pausing and making that point because a lot of times people say, "Oh, I read that. I know that already. I read that." And I can tell by their language that they didn't read it. And if they did, they surely didn't understand it. Because there's certain things that when you read them and you read it properly and you understand it properly and you reread it and you reread it and you reread it and you reread it and you get an integrated prophecy within you based on what you read, it changes your language. You can't say the same thing. Or sometimes I'll hear people still mispronouncing things. And it's like there's no way you spend too much time dealing with the scholarship of that subject if you still can't pronounce the subjects or the topics properly. You haven't done. There's a lot of lazy scholarship. And again, one of the reasons I'm dealing with this topic is similar to why I wrote Grasping the Root of Divine Power. I wrote that book because in many senses, I was tired of seeing people getting ripped off by crooked Babalawos. Who kept telling people like, yo, you got to come to me for everything. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't. And I knew it was a lie. They're lying. They're making a subscription out of your life. Like, I'm going to be clocking this much every month from this particular person, from my godchild. Just lying to you. So I wrote the book. Look, here's the prayer. You could say these prayers yourself. Don't be scared. Here's how you do this. This is how you do it. Here's how you do that. This is what's related. This is what's related to that. Right? So this is similar to that. This experience that I'm taking you down with Genesis. And we're going to do 4 sessions in total. So this, I'm not done, don't worry. But we're going to do 4 with this. So you're gonna be weighted enough in it where you know how to read it properly. So again, we go back to in the beginning, or Bereshith Elohim created Shemayin Ve, and what we use for the earth, right? And I'm just using the term earth in English for you because it makes things a little easier later. All right, and the earth was void, or I could just tell you, eretz is a term that we use, eretz, but don't worry about it just yet. And again, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Okay, so we only at our second part yet now. Now, again, nothing has happened physically yet. So this is all mental concept. We still are in the mind of the Elohim. We haven't even gotten to a point where now we have grass and trees and man being pressed or formed out of the dust of the earth. We haven't even gotten there. We are still just in a space where these higher function aliens are just thinking together. And Eretz, or the earth, was without form. What does that mean, without form? That means that it was desolate. Okay. There was confusion, there was emptiness, if you will. But one of the most important things that you got to understand that it means without form is that it was without without physical presence. There's no form. It's a thought. So the thought has not been condensed down into a concept as of yet. We still don't have a concept, but we have a thought. Okay? So that's what it means. So it's just kind of the idea there of is of a wilderness, right? And the wilderness is so important, even though we hear things about going into the wilderness and to fast and things like that. When you look at the word bewilder, it has the same root as wilderness. So whenever you have in any type of mythology or anything, the wilderness can represent being lost or not having direction, not having form, not having guidance, right? Now, the reason I say it can represent it, because people should never tell you what stuff represents, because people don't know. Just like you might say, well, how you know this is true? I don't. I wasn't there. A part of me was there, but not the part that's most active right now. I don't know, right? But there are certain people that the truth is laced inside of already. So when they hear the truth, read the truth, function on the truth, they connect to it immediately. There's an immediate tether. So when I read this, I'm transported right there. I get it. Why? Because I'm a truth holder. Somebody else might read and be like, oh man, that's why there's a bunch of people. All right, well, it ain't for you, man. Go to the devil, because that's who your father is. Go rock out over there. You know? So, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Now, what is darkness? Again, the idea of darkness is the idea of formlessness, but it's the idea of mystery. And the face represents that which is turning. Okay, so there's like this swirling. When you look at the concept of face, and even darkness is koshek, right? And koshek is kind of important because it represents that which is secret. Now, I want you to keep that in mind, because you might say, well, that sounds like the subconscious mind. It does sound like the subconscious mind, right? Hold that, keep that. If you need to write a note, write a note. But that is like the subconscious mind, right? So darkness was upon the face of the deep, right? And when we're looking at, we could even say the deep, right? Which deep would be tehom. Deep also means the abyss, or the sea. So there's a lot of, anytime you see that basically, let me make it simple for you. When you see a word that has M in it, or sound, then that means it has the letter mem in it, or even min, but mem means water. So there's going to be a concept of water. So I'll give you an example. In Hebrew, we have the day yom. I mean, the word, it means day. We have day is yom, right? So or the word yom is day. So yom is yod. That's the small hand. Remember yod from earlier, and mem. Yod and mem is yom. Sometimes you might see it yod, vav, mem, but you don't really need the vav. But it could just be yod and mem, yom, right? Y-O-M, if you're going to write it out. Now, what does water have to do with the daytime? And the hand of the Most High is over the waters. That's what you call the day. It also represents the ideas of howling or being frightened. That's the day. We'll get into that a little bit later. But anytime you see that Elohim, it's got something to do with water. All right, so that's just a little tip. So where was I? And void, without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, right? And I think I told you face. Face is panim, okay? in our Hebrew. And it's the idea again of there being a presence, but mostly also something is turning. Face of the deep and the spirit. Now, spirit is ruach, ruach, ruach. Ruach is a very important word because ruach means wind, but it also means breath. Now, here's the important thing. When we read in 1 and 1, and it tells us that he created the heaven and earth, another term for heaven is wind. So heaven is also a form of ruach, is wind. Okay? So not necessarily a place with all light and everybody's in robes and whatever. Wind is heaven. Breath is heaven. Okay? And truthfully, I'll skip ahead a little bit. Heaven is having El. What is El? I told you El is the Elohim, right? That's our root of Elohim, right? When you have heaven, you have El. You know, when you are in Shamayim or Shemayim. When you don't have El, you are in hell. I know the words sound similar, but remember our term for hell is Sheol. Sheol. And She means like to extract out. Sheol. So to if you are in Sheol, it means you are without El, or you are without your creator. You are without God, if you like to use that term, if that clicks it better for you for right now. You are without that. But when you are in heaven, you have that. So when we hear things like, well, heaven and hell are a state of mind, yeah, it said it right in the beginning, because Bereshit, in the beginning, El in his mind created heaven and earth. So, the face of the deep and the spirit, or the ruach of the Elohim, moved upon the face of the waters, right? So now we get a new word, mayim, or mim, like I told you before. Mayim, the face of the waters, mayim. And there's so many different understandings, or references to that. But mayim, or water, in this form represents the sea, and it represents the thing that is feared, that fearful thing. So the hand, or the face of Elohim moved upon this fearful thing. Why is it fearful? It's desolate. It has no form. It's similar to the subconscious mind. We seek to rule the lower nature, or the demons of the subconscious mind, with the superconscious, or the higher divine mind, if we can, if we're functioning from the perspective of the Elohim, or from what we're made of. We'll get into what we're made of a little bit later. All right. So let's get to the third verse. And Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now, of course, here's an important thing. Like I said, normally the way we're taught, Elohim said, "Let there be light," or God said, "Let there be light," and then the sun, boom. Even if you watch like, I guess documentary, I don't know what they call them, whatever, like Christian movies, whatever, Christian kind of documentaries. When they show the visualization, they'll say, "And God said, let there be light," and then they'll be like in outer space, and then the sun will come, right? But we know that's bullcrap, right? Now, how do we know that's bullcrap? Because the sun was created after this moment. The sun was created way down, right? We'll get to that. We might not even get to that tonight, but we don't even have a sun or moon or stars yet. So that's bullcrap. That tells us a couple of things. One, now why was it so important that Elohim told us that, yo, I created light before I created the sun? Well, one, so that you wouldn't be worshiping the sun, because that's what some people were doing after a certain point. You could even see it in the way that they mistook the interpretations for their books, Sunni, Torah. They started to really like, oh, we here to worship the sun. No. Because I made light before I made the sun. The sun was an after effect of what we already had. Okay? So that's the first thing. So that was something that oftentimes was taught that was off. But also, light doesn't mean what we're taught it means. When we look at, where did he say it? And let there be light. I think he said it in verse 3. Right. And the Elohim said, or they said it in verse 3 rather. And the Elohim said, let there be light, which we use the Hebrew word or, right? But here's the thing with or doesn't necessarily mean light as you and I may know it, like sunlight, or I turn a flashlight on. Light actually means order. And it's represented by the concept of a box. Okay, so it's represented by the concept of a box, an order. Now, why is it represented by a box in terms of pictograph form in the ancient Hebrew? Because how do you put things in order? You know, like if you have a child, like they have a toy box, put your toys away, right? So it's the concept of bringing order to an environment that was once desolate. So when the Elohim said, let there be light, what happened in that moment? In that moment, the thoughts that were the water, that were the abyss, now became a concept. Ooh, I know what I'm going to do. I see it clear now. That was the light that the Elohim created. It wasn't the sun or the moon or the stars or whatever bullcrap they teach you, right? Now, why do they teach you all this bullcrap? Because keep you from ever knowing how to create anything. You know, one of the things that is oftentimes a problem, especially like in the metaphysic or the conscious community, is that a lot of times there's a lot of information it's just old mythology that's taught that really doesn't mean anything. I mean, to keep it on it doesn't, you can't really do anything with it. You know, you could tell me any old myth or whatever, that's cool. But you know, what am I really going to do with that in regards to where we are right now? Like, how relevant is that? It feels very extracurricular at some point. And some people, they create a hustle out of selling you stuff that you can't do anything with. You know, you can't do anything with it. So it becomes a hustle, right? So I'll give you a bunch of things that they're interesting. These are some interesting facts about this, about that, about that, about that, about that. But it's not really going to tell you how the nation build. It's not really going to tell you how to build family. Now, the first book we encounter is the book of generations, Genesis. So it tells you right from the beginning, because Rosh, Bereshith, Rosh, not only means head, but it also means chief or family head. So when it says in the beginning, it's saying the Elohim, or the Elohim representing our forefathers, foremothers. That's what said when people say, well, the Elohim it's a bunch of stuff. But it's telling you just by word design, by the meaning of the secret inside of it, your forefathers and your foremothers had an idea to create heaven and earth. And what is heaven and earth? Your subconscious and your superconscious mind. And you know, your subconscious mind was crazy. It was chaotic, but I was present. It wasn't hell. So don't think your subconscious is hell. Because hell is Sheol. Well, I'm not present. But in your subconscious, the Ruach, or my spirit. What is my spirit? The Ruach, which some people will call the Holy Spirit, or the Ruach Kodesh. That is not only the active force of the Godhead, but the Ruach is the sexual energy. It's a sexual creative force. I'll explain that later. It's the force that when you are creating properly, it's the force that you're sending down into your genitals, right? So if you're having a sexual experience, obviously we already know what's happening in the mind, right? And then there's breath. There's talking. There's things happening with your throat chakra. And then that breath should now send a force into your genitals now, where you are now creating. You know, but I'll get into that a little bit deeper, because that's when you actually get into your proper uses of sex magic. So some people, and I've been asked this before, like, there's no sex magic in the Bible. That's totally false. You just don't know how to read it. It's right there. It's right there in the very beginning. It's just the way they teach the book, or whoever they is. You know, I don't want, like, whoever they is. They don't know it. You know, so we might want to be like, man, that's messed up. They should have taught me this. They didn't know what to teach it. You know. They just knew, read this story. It doesn't really make sense. So let's jump to the New Testament where it gets exciting. Because all this stuff, what does it matter if everything's already created? But this whole set of first verses hasn't even talked about the physical environment that we live in yet. It talks about the genesis, or the unseen beginning of the physical environment that we're in. How was it supposed to be in the very beginning? How was it in its pure form? This is what we're reading. All right. So God said, let there be or order, order. Let there be order, and there was order, right? So now we get a sense of, I say something, it happens. Or the Elohim said, let there be order, light, order, and there was order. Meaning now my concepts are together now. I was just kind of daydreaming. I was daydreaming before. I was ruminating on different ideas, but now I'm putting them into boxes. So once I'm putting them into boxes, what does that mean? Now the process of manifestation has begun. Now the earth is coming forth. It wasn't coming forth until it was order. It was just a thought. But now it's coming forth into a real concept where it can now begin to materialize into something physical. Okay? And the Elohim saw the order, and that it was good. So now the Elohim realizes or sees physical manifestation is a good thing. Okay, it worked out. Because I had the thought, but I didn't know, I won't know what it really is until I make something happen, until I push something forward. And now that I've pushed it forward, okay, yeah, this is good. This is good. So I'm beyond my thoughts now. And the Elohim divided the light, or the order, because you now know what order is, from the darkness, right? And the darkness is koshek. So the order from the secret, or the order from the mystery. So we have that in our sacred Odu Ifa. We have Eji Ogbe and we have Oyeku Meji. And Eji Ogbe is signified by a white disc, which represents all things you can experience or see in the universe. And Oyeku Meji is a black disc, all things that are unseen, right? But the concept there is now what's separated is really masculine for feminine, but that which is brought forth and manifested and seen, and that mystery that lies in the darkness. So even now when you read even scripture like this scripture has light and it has darkness, right? Everything now has light and darkness that has come forth as a physical reality. A great example of, like, one of the greatest examples in scripture of light and darkness that people were taught wrong. I'm giving you a great example of it and a great example of a wrong teaching. Lucifer, right? So people will say, oh, Lucifer, that's the devil. And he screws you up. He trips you up. That's the devil. He trip you up. No. You have Lucifer, which is the light side. It's named Luce. It means light. And then you have Satan, which is the shadow of Lucifer. Satan is the material side. Satan, set, also satisfy, satiate. So it represents the flesh, the physical need for satisfaction, the physical need for satiation, which is never satisfied. You can never have one. You can never have, you always want more, right? So Lucifer represents the light, whereas Satan represents the shadow. Okay, so that's a form of the light was separated from the dark, although they're a part of the same mentation coming from the same mind. Heaven and earth are the same mentation coming from the same mind. The fire in the sky, Shaim, or the broken pottery on the ground, they still come from the same mentation. Lucifer, Satan still come from the same mentation, right? Light, dark still come from the same mentation, from the same mind. And God called the light Yom, or day, right? And the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Now, it's important to understand day doesn't mean 24 hours. Doesn't mean 24 hours. Day could also mean error. It can mean a year. It can mean years. Yom, first of all, you already know Yom means the hand over the waters. So that right there tells you, all right, that ain't got nothing to do, with I wake up and go to work and go, what are we talking about here? And it's the terror time. It's the hand over the waters, which is considered to be like the terror, you know. Whereas night, which is Lila, like you might hear some people say Lala Tov. Tov means good, and Lala means like night. So good night, or Erev Tov, good evening. Yom Tov, Yom day, Tov good day, Yom Tov, right? But when we think about the term day, it doesn't necessarily just mean 24 hours, because we use terms like, back in the day, or back in my day, in those days, right? So if I say back in the day, am I talking about a 24-hour period, or am I talking about a season? That's the important thing. We're talking about a season. And I'm just going to go a little further. I'm not going to do the whole all in one. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Now, here's an important thing. And I'll go to 7. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament and the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And he called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day, right? What's so important about this? Above and below. So I have seen times where people have explained this, and they have taken the waters and went horizontal with it. And they said, and that's how the earth was able to come up from the separate. No, that's off. That's wrong. It didn't go this way. It went that way. So that means there was water in the sky and there was water beneath the sky. Now, I've heard some people also say, oh, yeah, the water on the bottom was the sea, and the water that went into the sky was the clouds. And there would be times that the Most High knew we needed clouds in the sky so we could get rain at certain times. That's also false. Remember, you got to understand, again, all of this stuff is coming from a mentation, right? So if I have waters below, and this is where you get into the similarities with the tales of Gilgamesh, the Sumerian tales. There were waters that were lower, which were considered to be dirty, and those waters gave birth to all the mischievous gods. And then you had the waters above, which gave birth to all the benevolent gods, right? And I mean, Tiamat, the dragon, got sick of all of them anyway. But the point was that the waters on the bottom represented what was going to be used for humanity, the fluids, the blood, and things like that, whereas the waters above were the divine waters that were specifically for heaven. Now, how do we know that these were probably not clouds? Because they were separated by a firmament. What is a firmament? Some people just say, oh, that was the sky in between. No, because then it would have used the word Shemayin. And Shemayin, where were we at? Firmament. I'm going to go back to where I first read the word firmament. And God said, let there be a firmament. So for those of you following along, that would be verse 6, right? So God said, let there be a firmament, right? So that firmament, which is rakia, which is the term that we use for that, it means a piece of metal that has been pounded with a hammer. Piece of metal that has been pounded with a hammer. That's the firmament. That's rakia. So you think about that for a second. Does that sound like the sky? Something. So we're talking about something that was actually shaped and fashioned is the firmament. So now let's look at this for a second. Theory, because I don't know. I wasn't there. Theory. Could that be some sort of technology? Remember I don't know if you guys watched it. It was on Enlightenment and Transformation. Subscribe to that channel if you're not already, because we do great movie breakdowns and stuff. But I did a breakdown, what was it, I think last month? Maybe some, I don't know, of Alita, Battle Angel. And you had the city of Salem, or they called it Zalem. But in the manga version is Salim, right? Just like Jerusalem. Salim means peace, and Jeru means city, or Jeru is city, right? City of peace. But Zalim was like a city that was suspended in the sky by anti-gravity mechanisms, right? But that was considered like heaven for, for Iron City, Metal City, for where they were. Everybody wanted to go up there to Salim, right? So just theory, you playing around, thoughts in your mind for a second, like the Most High does. You might say, well, shoot, if the firmament is like some kind of metallic thing, yeah, that could be like a ship. That could be like even maybe a saucer, like a flying saucer. And then there's water in it, So I'm scooping up some of the water, I'm bringing it up with me, and then some is down here with you, right? Just, just thoughts for the mind. But the idea is that it's something that's been flattened. So when you say, rakia, it's not just like a metal ball, if you will. It's something that's flat. Yes, like a mother plane, Brother Chris, right? That's what the firmament is. Now, I'm not adding anything. It may feel like it as I'm reading. It may feel like, oh, I'm not. I'm just telling you the words that were there before they turned it into English. It went from the Aramaic to the Hebrew to the, and that's even debatable, to the Greek. There was Latin, it went to the English, Latin to the Greek to the English. So, and even before that, there were like over 318 translations of it. You know what I mean? So that's why when people say, well, this happened, that, well, things have been translated so much, you have to know that things have been missed, right? You have to kind of know that there have been things that are missed. But there's some stuff that we can still recapture. That's not so far off, right? And certain concepts are so far from what was written. Like he created the heaven and the earth. Oh, the heaven is where he lives. So he created his home. Why did he just pick the earth for his home? Like, why is it just there? He created the heaven and the earth, and then he separated the waters so that the land could come up, even though it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that the land then came up. It doesn't say that. He created the land, and it went this way, and then the mountains came up, and that's what they give you in the cartoons and all of that. And that's just not what happened. There was water on the bottom. He pushed water up to the top, or they pushed water up to the top. They put some sort of metal mechanism in between, or something that was, I'm saying metal just because of how it's translated, but something that was flattened out to sit between the upper and the lower, right? But again, we're still talking about a mentation. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were, and of course, again, waters are mayim as far as your translation. Mayim, the water, which was above the firmament, and it was so. And Elohim called the firmament, which is the metal, the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Okay? And Elohim said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. Okay, so now what did the dry land represent? The dry land now represented the concreting of the thought. So I had the concept in my mind. I had thoughts. That was the desolation. That was the water going all over the place. Now it's coming together into a concept, into a solid idea. So remember, everything that's happening in the mind of the Most High is slowly secreting itself into a physical, it's slowly unfurling into a physical reality. So just like there was the desolation of the waters beneath of the earth, it was without form. Okay, well now we have waters that are without form. We have the space. So now let's create a solid idea. What does that solid idea represent? Dry earth. That's now taking all of the watery mysticism of my thoughts, saying, oh, there's something solid there, concrete, that I can stand my convictions on. Okay, so that becomes the second day, and that becomes the earth. Now, what's also important is that we didn't have soil up until this point. So even though it said he created the heavens and the earth, a lot of times we'll perceive earth or eretz as, oh, now it's time for stuff to walk on earth. No, there was none of that because there was nothing physical yet. So when he starts talking about, or they start talking about water and this, now we're getting into, we're taking my subconscious, making that water. We're taking my superconscious and we're making that heaven. And we're putting a firmament or barrier between the two, right? Because they're supposed to function in their own space. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters called he seas. Now, of course, we know we're talking Elohim. And Elohim saw that it was good. Oh, so that works. Those two work together. That works together. And of course, seem is yem, and it could be, defined as a couple things, but it's a masculine word meaning to roar, like how like a lion would roar. So that's the concept of the sea. So there's a roaring now that's happening. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit, after his kind. Most important thing, outside of Bereshit, this is the most important part. We're at verse 11. This is the most important outside of Bereshit. Because now we get into where we messed up. Now we get into really where we messed up, right? So let's do it again. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. So the potential of that seed was already in the earth. And now the Most High is saying, bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. So what does it tell you about the original design or the original intention of a tree or of a piece of fruit? Seed. Now, why is seed so important? Because seed represents that thing that was unadulterated. Remember, and this is an important part because this is a question that comes up. Who was Cain afraid of after he killed Abel? Right? We can skip right to it because we know a lot of this story already. Who was these people? If in the beginning, if Adam was the first man and Eve, and it doesn't say that. We're going to get to that part, but it doesn't say that. It says that these were people in situations that were created. So why was the seed important? Because I'm bringing things back to the beginning. In my mind, when it was pure, before, because now we have plants. We buy watermelon with no seeds. You buy grapes with no seeds. That's not what I'm bringing forth. I'm bringing forth the original. Okay, so and Elohim said, "Let the earth bring forth grass." So now what we also have, which is different, whereas we had segregation, now we have production. So we have water splitting so something could come forth, right? So it's a concept now of this is going to be over here, that's going to be over here. Light's going to be over here, darkness is going to be over here. And now in this concept, we have the earth now producing. So you see how there's a trickling down of the mind. The Most High is speaking and all of it, like, let this happen, let that happen, this do that, that do that. I'm saying it. Now it's saying, now earth, you do your thing. You do your thing. You bring forth grass. You bring forth this type of tree. You do this, you do that, you do that. So now that is becoming the active force and the active mechanism because it's reflecting the mental earth that the Most High created in the very first verse. Okay? And that mental earth is divine and it comes from a divine source. So of course it's going to be referencing seeds, right? And the earth brought forth the grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. Why do they keep saying after his kind? Because they're speaking about no genetic mixing. We're not talking about, he's saying, I don't want any hybrid. I don't want genetically modified. I don't want any of that stuff. I want things that are coming from itself. Now, why is that such an important thing? Well, we'll skip ahead a little bit. Well, no, we won't skip ahead. We'll read and then we'll come back and we'll explain. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. And you might say, wait a minute, he already said let there be light. See, that's what I'm talking about. The Bible got too many inaccuracies in it. No, you just don't know how to read. You got to know what you're reading, right? So remember, in the beginning, he said, let there be light, let there be order. Let there be order. Then he says, or they say, and Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, for days, and for years. So now the Elohim is signifying time. There's going to be a motion of time that we want to work with, which is why we're counting days. And this was the first day, and this was the second day, and this was the third day. Because what are we showing? That creation happens in a process. It's not a Big Bang theory. It's not an instant thing. Meteor crashes, boom, we all here. It's not that. This is something that happens over a process of time, and there's a distinct order to it, which we're going to get into in a second. There's a correlation in the order of how things are happening. But we already have light. So now the light that's being created are the stars, the sun, the moon. All right, these are the lights that are being created now, and and let them be for signs. Now, here's an important thing. Christians will tell you that, oh, you shouldn't look to the sky for signs. The scripture about that. That's not what it says. You mistranslated that, because it says it's right there in the very beginning, and let them be for signs. What are for signs? The lights, the sun, the moon, the stars that I created. Those are signs for you to know stuff that's happening, right? Like I was mentioning recently, I think in a Sabbath call, scientists are now noticing that the moon is turning red. And they're saying it's because of all of the iron that's on the surface of the moon is now oxidizing. So, of course, oxidizing, it means to rust. So it's rusting. And this is the same thing that happened with the planet Mars. So Mars is red because Mars is like all iron. So it oxidized, it rusted, it looks red. But there's a scripture about in the final days when the moon turns to blood. You know what I mean? They read this, they know, but they got to give you a different answer. It's just now turning red. Come on, stop playing. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven. Now notice he said not in heaven. He said in the firmament of the heaven. Isn't that kind of interesting? Because we already figured out that the firmament of the heaven is like some sort of metal sheet or some sort of hard substance that was pounded flat up there. So now when you tell me put lights in it, well, that sounds like I'm looking at the bottom of a ship or something. Because you're literally putting lights into something hard, something physical. It's not like they're being sustained by their own gravitational levity. You are actually putting them, like putting lights in the ceiling. Okay, so there'll be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night. Again, this all sounds like technology. And signs for the seasons, for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. 16th verse. And God and Elohim made two great lights. Now, wait a minute. Hold on, Jack. He said, let there be light in the beginning. We already got that, right? Let there be light in the beginning. We got that earlier, which I told you is order. Let there be order. Then we have, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven. That's another thing. Then he says, or Elohim says, and Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. Any of you catch that? So we already have 5 instances of light already by verse 16. 5. We have the light in the beginning, let there be light. It was good. Then we have lights in the firmament of heaven, right? That's 2. Then we have 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. That's 2 more. That's 4. And then we have he made the stars also. That's 5. So the sun, moon, and stars are they come all the way down by verse 16. But before we get to verse 16, we already have 2 forms of light already created, and one set of light sits in the firmament. Again, why was this stated? So you wouldn't end up worshiping the sun, moon, and stars to understand that, they came later. They're not the important ones. What about them lights in the firmament of heaven? Am I able to see those? I'm sorry, I said teach. So am I able to teach those or see those? Can I see those? Because you done already spoke about 2 different forms of light before I even got to the one that I thought was the only ones there. Are we talking about technology? And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. Set them in the firmament. Again, I will repeat. Firmament, pounded metal, pounded with a hammer. And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. And Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. So wait, you telling me that birds came from the ocean? Yeah. Yeah. The birds came from the ocean. And the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. So what's the open firmament? So if you tell me that there's an open firmament, then that means there must be a closed firmament. So there's a firmament that there's access to, that the birds have access to, which is one of the reasons why in our Yoruba we call, we call the birds, the a form of Aj, because they travel between 2 different worlds. Like we consider them like, they're like gods. They can go between the land of the humans and lands of the gods. So there's an open firmament, and then there's a closed firmament. So there's a firmament that I can move around and I can fly my plane in and see and everything. But then there's another firmament that I can't. So is it possible that there's some sort of technology? Like, I'm not a flat earther. All right. So if you think that's what I'm building up to, anybody's, I know where he's going with it. I'm not a flat earther, but I'm not a round earther either. Right. Because like I've often said, whatever they told you, you better think the opposite. So even though I'm not a flat earther, I would believe them quicker than I would believe the round earthers, because I don't believe that you lied about everything. So but this does sound like there's a planet, there's a earth, there's a surface, there's something hard over it with lights in it, and then there's 2 other lights that help people to see the signs and the seasons and so forth. And then above that is another set of lights and another set of activity. Because the firmament of heaven is not heaven. The firmament of heaven is the divider between heaven and earth. But the firmament is something hard and physical. So verse 21, and Elohim created great whales and every living creature that moveth with the waters, brought forth abundantly after their kind. No mixing, no modification, no genetic experiments. This was not Prometheus. Okay. Brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. Now, why was it good? Because it was back to the original form of what it was supposed to be. And Elohim blessed them, saying, a blessing is an anointing as well, just so you know. So if I bless something or anoint it, make it nice and shiny with oil, it's the same thing. So the blessing is the charge for, like, you can do, now I empower you to do this. And Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fire multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast. That's important. Don't forget the word beast. And beast of the earth. Because you would think after we say living creature, why do we have to say beast? And beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And Elohim made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And Elohim saw it, and it was good. Now, what are all these different animals and stuff, right? What are all the water and the whales and the birds? What is this? These are thoughts. These are thoughts, right? So as Elohim is thinking, Elohim is like, oh, and I see this, and I see that, and I see that, and I see that, and I see that. It's good. What are the beasts? The beasts are the disruptors to the thought. So the Elohim created the diversity. So when we speak about the idea of the beast, or the number of the beasts, or the six, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with the concept that there's something that can jump in the line and interrupt divine thought. We all know the story, so I can skip ahead, right? This is not a spoiler. I'm thinking. What did the serpent do? Because the creeping thing, that was a serpent. So we say, oh, that was the devil. That wasn't the devil. That was just a serpent. Right? What did the serpent do? Interrupted the thought between Adam and Hawa, or Adam and Eve. Interrupted it. There was a straight line of unity. Because all of this that the Elohim is creating, that's why he keeps saying after his kind, after his kind, after his kind. Because what he's establishing is oneness. He's establishing unity. The Elohim is establishing unity, is establishing oneness. And the beast has the potential, like the serpent has the potential, to get in the way and create duality. So when we hear things like, being of a double mind, and being unstable in all your ways. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, or I chewed the lukewarm in my mouth and vomited out. Not being of one mind, but having this, I don't know, maybe I might, I don't know, having a duality is when you take on the beast mind, because the beast is not functioning from now the hand is over the waters controlling things, you see. So we'll get into that. We'll get into it. And Elohim said, here's where it gets interesting again. Elohim said, let us make man. And man, just so you're clear, is Adom. And really, Adom is also similar to dome. Sometimes you might just say dome, which means blood. But Adom, but we'll get into it. And Elohim said, let us make Adom in our image and our likeness, and let them, not he, them, have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Now, let's get into this for a second. This is important, right? And Elohim said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. Real simple. I look just like my mom's. You know what I'm saying? We look like twins, right? We in a room together, oh, that must be your mama, right? I have a lot of the artistic, well, my mother's an artist too, but I have a lot of the artistic leanings of my pops. I'm like him, I am made after their image and likeness. I am pure. I am pure. There's nobody in the way. I don't look like, any of my mother's exes or my pop's exes. I look like them. I got their voice, everything. you know, pure. Because when I was created when they however it started, it might have started off with some jazz and some wine, but by the time that the fluids were released, they were in the spirit. They were in the ruach, right? So I ended up coming out just like how they describe here, in our image and in our likeness. So I am after their kind. There's not a disruption of the thought here. Now, the important thing to understand is that we see the unfurling of mentation and spirit, because when it is said, "Let us make man in our image," and then verse 27 says, "So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created him, male and female created he them," because Elohim is male and female, right? So now, what's happening in that moment? And what is the significance of that concept or that idea? Everything that the Elohim has created up until this point, other than what the sea and the earth was instructed to bring forth, came from the mind and the mouth, or the word, forget mouth, the word of Elohim. Everything. Why is that? Because the Elohim is creating from its own mental substance. It's not saying, let me go to a distant galaxy and go get some pixie dust and then throw that out there, and then that's going to be the earth, and then let me go over here and get some waters from, Pluto, because it's cold, they got ice, and bring it back. And the Elohim is not doing that. The Elohim, everything that the Elohim is creating is made of what the Elohim is, because that's all it has to create with, is itself. So it's bringing forth things of its own kind. It's bringing forth things of its own likeness, of its own image, because that's the creation matter that it's working with. So when the Elohim says, "Let us make man," it's saying we're going to use what we have and we're going to send that forward into this thing that we're going to call man. Now, what is man at that point? Man is a perfect idea. Man is perfect understanding. We're making our children. That's what man is. And we're going to make our children like we are, right? But it's coming from our substance. So in the same instance, when my parents create me, they create me from what? From them. They didn't have to pull anything extra other than what they were. They didn't have to say, okay, well, put that piece of wood there. We want them to have strong bones. So, let's put this in there, shove all this up inside of you, and then mix some of my sperm in with that. No, what we are is what creates them. So they are a pure expression of us. You see, that is the concept of "let us make man in our image and in our likeness," meaning there's no genetic modification here. Man is going to be pure deity. Man is actually going to be pure Elohim. That's what man is, because man is made solely from the substance of Elohim. And what is the substance of Elohim? Spirit mentation. The Lord God is spirit, and those that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. Okay? So Elohim created man in his own image. You created, right? You are a copy of me, made from what I'm made from. And I'm made from spirit. I am made from ruach. I am made from thought. I'm a giant brain. I'm an intelligence. That's what you're made of. In the image of Elohim created he him, male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them. And Elohim said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." Now, what is fruitful? Fruitful, we always, of course, associate with go have a bunch of babies. It is that, right? It's continue forward what it is that we're doing. We can't necessarily say when they received that blessing, no, that because you remember at the moment that blessing was received, there wasn't a division between Adom and Hawa. We just talking to Adom, right? And keep in mind that the word for earth or for the dust of the earth is Adoma, which is similar to, we use the word for red in Hebrew, Adoma, right? So Doma, Adoma, it's all the same thing. Earth, red, man, right? And dome is blood. So it's a concept there that we're talking about blood. So when he says, let us make man, let us make blood in our image. Blood. What is the blood? Well, that's the spirit. That's the life. That's the DNA. That's the genetics, right? So when they're saying be fruitful and multiply, at this point there's no copulation, because there's just this androgynous being like the earth, called Adoma. So what is it to be fruitful and multiply when you're functioning only? Because Adoma doesn't have a body yet. And he's saying, subdue this and subdue. How am I going to subdue these things if they're physical? Because they're not physical yet. They're still in the spirit. They haven't fully materialized. So there's the spirit of the well, the spirit of the fish, the spirit of the beast, the spirit of the creeping thing. So the only thing we have at this point is grass. That's the only thing that's actually come forth, that the earth is really brought forth in the physical. We learn that later. But which is upon the face of, so he says, and Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, not plant, not fruit, not salad, seed, which is upon the face of all earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree, yielding seed to give you, it shall be for meat. So when he's saying, I've given you the trees that are building, that are bearing fruit, that bear seed, again, we're speaking about, this is non-GMO. Basically, I'm giving you some non-GMO seeds. So when you eat this fruit, there will be seeds in this fruit that you can now replant again, right? But we have to look at something important. First of all, when he said, and those things shall be as meat to you. So a lot of vegetarians use that, and they'll say, like, well, see, we were originally given the plants and the seeds and the herbs because that was supposed to be our meat. So why wouldn't the Most High just say that's going to be your food? Why use the word meat? Because it's not the word meat. That's not what was used there, okay? So again, like I told you, and for those of you especially coming in late, a lot of times what we're receiving when we're studying, we're receiving a translation, but we have the word, we would pronounce it like kill or kel. So that's the word that was there for meat, and that means vessel. So when he says, I'm giving you the seed of the herb, I'm giving you the seed of the tree, and the trees are there bear fruit that have seed after its own kind. So there's also a science there that one thing is not going to make another thing. A pomegranate tree is not going to bring forth mangoes or avocados or olives. So if you come forth as man, then you come forth from what you came out of. See, that's the science there. So you represent my seed, like we call our children, that's my seed, right? So you come from me, and I'm not going to produce something that is not me, and you're not going to produce something that's not me. Oh, give thanks, Alex, again. I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. I think that's a super chat or donation. I don't know, one of them. But you're not going to produce something that's not of you, and everything that I want you to take in has got to have the same quality, because we're replicating that quality going forward, right? So when he says the trees and the herbs, the seeds will be as meat, he's saying they will be as a vessel to you, right? So what is a vessel? Something that carries something from one place to another, right? Now, you've heard me speak about spirits, because remember, at this point, Adom is a spirit. Adom is not like me and you. There's no body, there's no hands and arms, there's no face, there's none of that. Adom is just is a lineage. He's blood, or it's blood, their blood. They're like plasma at this point, but they're spiritual plasma. They're not a physical body, right? So when he's saying that these seeds will be as a vessel, these seeds you can put your body into. You can use them as a way to travel from here to there. You can use these seeds, these herbs, these fruit that bear seeds. These will be as meat to you. No, these will be as a vessel to you. Now, why didn't they use the word vessel? Just being tricky. They're just being tricky. Because even in word, kof and lamed are the words that we have there, but we have the image of, like the ancient Hebrew, the picture of meat was a palm tree that was bent and a shepherd's hook together. So what that meant was the ability to tame something and to rule over it. You can use this, like how you would get into a boat and you're going to go this way, you're going to go that way, you're going to go that way. So that was the concept. Now, what does that have to do with meat? Well, if I want to run around like taming animals and to use them for something that I shouldn't be using them for, then I might use that type of word, you know. But the word there was vessel. Okay, so let's go to where we were. We were, see, 29. So now we're going to 30. So we're going to finish out. There's only 2 verses left. And to every beast of the earth, and beast is kai or k, either one. The beast represents life or things that are living. So the concept is there. When you feel it's kind of tricky, but it's the appetite of life is beef, the things, or beast, excuse me, the things that you would lust and desire for, right? That's the beast, but it's the appetite, the things that are lively, right? So, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, right? And to be clear, air there again, we're using shemaim or shema, okay, which is heavens, you know. And to everything that creepeth upon the earth, when there is life, wherein there is life. Now, what's important, kai is also used again there. So when Elohim is saying wherein there is life, it's speaking about the bestial nature. It's not speaking about life like you and I may know it. Grow up, go to school, get a good job. But like, not that. It's speaking about where is the beast nature? Where is the appetite for living? Okay. To everything that creepeth upon the earth where there is life, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb. Okay. And green is yorok. All right. Which is, just so you know, that's in Hebrew is yorok or yorek. But the concept there, when it speaks about green, it's talking about things that are drawn out of the soil. Okay, things that come forth from the soil in that sense, or something that is drawn out, right? Which is similar to education. Education means to draw out or to bring out, from educar, the Latin. So wherein is life, I have given every green herb for meat. We already know what meat is, right? It's the same word that that they used earlier, which is 402, Hebrew 402, if you're looking for the reference. And it was so. Okay? So again, verse 30 said, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. So we're not even talking about eating. And Elohim saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. There's a pattern there. Good, very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. Okay, so that's the last part of that particular section. Yeah. Yeah, that's the last part of that particular section, because I just really wanted to go up to the 6th day, right? Because the 6th day, that first chapter really is just dealing with work. If you think about it, we haven't gotten to Sabbath yet, you know, or to the Sabbat. So the concept there again is that this is when we finally get to the 7th day, just because this argument has come a lot. Like, why did God have to rest? You know, God is all. No, it's just showing that there's a time when you stop. There's a time for completion. There's a pattern, and there comes a moment when you say, "Okay, I've done what I needed to do. I've done my job." So rest meaning just to stop doing whatever it is that I was doing. So again, for those of you who didn't come in from the beginning, the majority of what you're getting in Genesis is thought. Again, when we say Genesis, we're speaking about generations, oxygen, regeneration, genes. So that's why when you keep hearing after his own kind, after his own kind, after his own kind, it's talking about keep the genetics pure, keep the line pure, keep the blood pure. Adam or Adam, well, you say Adam, right? But it's Adom or Adoma. Adoma is earth, red, dome means blood, have blood. So when he's saying, "Oh, let's make blood after our own kind," right? So what they're saying is like the blood is pure, Adam is pure, the blood is pure. This is good, right? And we see when we're gonna do chapter 2 next time we go through it, right? But even with doing chapter 2, you already now have a good conception of like, oh wow, like there's way more lights. There's way more lights than they told me. The divider between heaven and earth is actually like a physical hard thing, like a piece of metal. Bereshith is the first word, not in the beginning. And Bereshith, means in the mind of the creator, or it could also mean in the mind of the creator. Israel keeps the law. Isis, Ra, and El keeps the law. Esh, Rael keeps the law in the mind of the creator. Well, why in the beginning does Israel keep the law? You think about this whole first section, verses 1, I think, through 31 is where it jumps off. Why is it so important, right? Because there's a lot of law given. Do this, you bring forth this, you bring forth that. All of that is law, right? That's all law. I didn't look at my notes the whole time. I had some old notes that I took a long time ago, and I said I would maybe use some of them as I'm talking, but I didn't. So I was going to scan real quick to see if I wanted to use any. But we kind of we at the end at this point. But law is being enforced, like when he's saying after his own kind, do this after. So in the beginning where it says in the mind of the creator, Israel keeps the law, or Israel guards the law or holds the law, right? The concept there is that I'm giving you this law now, and no matter what's going to happen, no matter what's going on, I know you're going to come back to the law. Like you're going to come back to not mixing things. Like, and this is important when you're studying too. We have what we call precepts. And I cited a few precepts. I really should have cited more, but I was trying to get through it for the sake of time. But whenever you bring something, according to our tradition, our Hebraic tradition, you bring witnesses, right? So if I say, Mark, I saw him steal something out of, Jaleesa's purse, right? I can't just say that. I have to have witnesses to either first to see me, to hear me say that that's what I'm saying, but also like who else saw this happen, right? So you should take the same approach when you are looking at scripture, right? Especially when someone's giving it to you, because that's like a really bad habit that a lot of preachers have. Unfortunately, they don't bear witness to what they're saying. And how do you bear witness? You back it up with more scripture. If I say Bereshith in the beginning in the mind of the creator, well, show me some more scriptures like what is his mind in his word? And he said, let this say, well, let's read John 1. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God. Oh, who's the word? And the word was made flesh and dwelt among us. So that tells us what? Oh, that thing that dwelt among us was there in the beginning of creation, because in the beginning. Okay, those two, that bears witness to that, right? So you want to look at things like if it's people, like it's people talking, like, how do I know this is what it is? Now, some would say, oh, but you proving the book against the book. You could do that. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's still within the same universe. If I'm in a community and I say something, I'm going to get somebody else from the community to bear witness. So it's still within the same ecosystem, if you will. But yeah, I was just scanning through my notes. Maybe I'll go. I'll follow it. What I'll probably do is tomorrow when I deliver my message on our New Life Global Ministries. Like I said, if you're not subscribed over there, you should. I'm gonna be right back tomorrow teaching again. But I'll probably share some of my old notes. These are very old notes. But like, yeah, God is that mental force that carries out the law, and the law is you should be perfect. So just like when Yahweh said, "Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect." That's what the whole "let us make in our image, after our kind." Perfect means to be complete, right? So I'm not going to disrupt the completeness of this tree, of this fruit, of this beast, of this animal, of this bird, of this man. It's going to stay complete. So the law is don't mix stuff up. So when we see the effects of that, when we fast forward later and we see Cain, and Cain is murderous. Like, where did that come from? Oh, his pops, the serpent. Because Eve intermingled with the serpent. So that's why it says later when Seth was born, that's why it says, okay, now the line has been redeemed. Because I lost Abel. Abel was killed, and Cain was never mine. Cain was really the serpent's. So he had the serpent mind. Now he had a beast mind. So now Seth restarts. Seth is like me planting my own garden. So now if you think about, we are an external reflective energy of what the creator, the original creator, has presented. Is it possible that Cain and Abel in Seth's story also happened to the Elohim? And by the time they got to the garden, they were like, all right, let's try it again. So that was like the Seth experience. Like, this is how you're going to do it. Don't mix this. Don't mix that. Only eat the stuff that comes from its own kind. You have dominion over this and that. Does that mean that outside of that, because right now we're still in the mental space, we haven't even gotten to, and the Elohim formed man out of the dust of the ground. That's second chapter. We haven't even gotten there yet, right? But the Elohim could have possibly been sitting back saying, as a scientist that we are, we have created before, and they decided to mix. And the batch is screwed up. So maybe we're going to release the Kraken. Yeah, I don't know about that. We're going to release the Predator to purge and cleanse the earth, or the Kraken, or the Leviathan, or maybe we'll just section off a part by the Euphrates River and the Tigris. We'll section off a little part, and we'll create another laboratory where we'll do it again, and we'll keep it pure this time. And hopefully no serpent that we create slithers up in there and screws up the experiment again. Could be that. I mean, it's a lot of different theories. You know what I'm saying? A lot of different theories. But we'll get into the second part. You know, but one of the things that you're understanding is that Elohim creates through the action of mind. All right. So everything is happening through mentation, and it is Yahweh, the Son, who's speaking. You know, and it is the Holy Spirit, or the Mother, who is now, or the Ruach HaKodesh, you know, the Spirit that is holy, is now functioning through the creative principles of sex. You know, so it's important to understand how these different things work. Or again, understanding that light is order. Light puts things into order. Light is not just something shining bright, but light is actually the ordering of principles. You know, like I said, I may share some of this a little bit more tomorrow, but I wanted to keep it somewhat light, and give you a better sense of, like, when I'm going through things, this is more high. Like, I rushed, like Bereshit, I broke down a little bit more for you. The rest I kind of just rushed through. But like how you saw me for 20, 30 minutes on Bereshit, if I'm studying like that, Genesis 1 and 1, I'm probably on that 7 to 10 days. Because then I want to look into this. If Moses wrote this, who told it to Moses? And Moses' death is in the books. Did he write about his own death, even though the scholars tell us that somebody else finished it? I kind of don't believe that. You know, Did Moses really write this? Did the Elohim really sit down and explain? All right, boom. Let me tell you something, son. Just like my grandfather did, and my uncle's like, oh, let me tell you, you look just like so and so. He was the first so and so. Da 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 da. Yeah. Well, Grandpa, how did we end up here? Oh man, we moved up from so and so, and then your great grandfather, he came from. Is it that? Right. So I'm looking at who's talking. I'm looking at who they're speaking to, what's happening at that time, and I'm also looking at the journey of whatever that book is, right? So if I'm looking at the book of Genesis, I want to know, has there been any arguments over Genesis? When did it first appear? If it was in the Aramaic, can I see some of that and compare it with a dictionary? Was it part of any lost language? How does that particular book or the concepts compare with other books? Like I said, the Enuma Elish. I want to look at the Sumerian tales and okay, what matches here with this one and that? Do we have other tree stories? I mean, we haven't gotten to the trees yet, but are there other tree stories and temptation stories and do those exist? And then if I'm breaking down the words, and I would have broken down way more words, but I didn't want to take you through that full journey, But that's how you study. That's how you study. You don't just read it and, yeah, I got that. You ain't got it. You ain't got it. We haven't even touched on the numerology. Like I told you, Bereshit adds up to 913. But we didn't really go into that. What does 913 represent? And when you look at the Hebraic order of ancient Hebrew words, the word right before that is 911, right? And 911 means destruction and fire and doom. So, I don't want to say too much. I probably said too much already. But yeah. So then you start to say, okay, so these numbers do mean something. Like somebody was really genius in like how they put together the mathematics of these words and how they add up. And then maybe somebody's using these words to make things happen at certain times based, on other things, So anyway, that is our real Genesis. That was the name of this particular segment. And why did I call it the real Genesis? Because the real Genesis is in the mind. You create your action and your potential through your thought first. And the things that come forth out of that action, thought, potential are made up of what they come from. So your world is made up of your mind, right? Not necessarily your thoughts, but your concepts. If you are unable to move the face of the Ruach or the spirit or the mother over the face of the waters, then the terror of the day becomes yours. Because remember, Yom or day is the hand over the waters, right? So when you're controlling the day could be chaotic. The day is made to be chaotic. It's hot. It's supposed to be the hot time where chaos ensues. That's why the night typically is calmer. It's supposed to be crazy. But is the hand, or Yod, is the hand of the Elohim or the Most High controlling and moving what the water is supposed to be? Is the spirit over the face of the deep? Yom, the hand, and Mem, water. Or is it Sheol? Is it hell? Where El has been taken out of, and now you just like a boat with no anchor trying to go through your day and just happy enough to get through it. Many companies are ran that way. They're called, in the business world, we call them snake pit companies, where you have managers that are just happy to get, another day down. Whew. That's their attitude every day, as opposed to the opposite of it is called a clockwork company. And within a clockwork company, everybody pretty much knows what they're supposed to do. It's low stress, instructions are clear, it's very systematic. Whereas a snake pit company is always high anxiety. Everybody always wants to know what's happening, but never knows, and it's just, they're just kind of like, it's just a very stressful environment. That could be your day without the presence of the hand of the Most High, right? But again, when you're creating and you're pushing things forward, that begins and that starts in the mind, you see. And it unfurls naturally because when you create real concepts, they work for themselves. So when the Most High was able to say, let the seas do this, you bring forth the water. I don't have to do it, you do it. Let the earth bring forth this. You know what to do. I made you to do it. You see? So even in how we're created, let us make man in our image. Well, what is our image? What do? We be creating stuff. We be doing some things, and there's a lot of us that we're all over. How many? Who knows? Are they aliens? Technically, yeah. Technically. So that means, are we aliens? Technically, yeah. Technically. you know, if you look at the lyricism of it, yeah, we would be aliens, yeah. You know. But we'll get into chapter 2 next Sabbath. I just wanted to give this as an intro. We're going to do the first four. We might go a little further than the first four. Now that you got a sense of how we're going to be moving, so you can prepare yourself by reading the second chapter of Genesis. So when you come in, you ready to rock out. And we will probably broadcast over on Our New Life Global Ministries for the second one. So if you're not subscribed there, go subscribe there so you won't miss it, right? Because that's normally where we do the readings, on Fridays. But I just did it on mine, to let some of you know, hey, come on over to there. So that's another thing. And then I'll be over there tomorrow anyway. I'll be over there at 12 o'clock Eastern, noon Eastern is when we do our teachings. And for those of you who have expressed a couple of things I want to just cover before I leave. A lot of people have been kind of hitting me up for like consultations and readings and stuff. Right now, I'm not doing any readings. I'm not going to be doing them for a while. All right. I have a couple of projects that I'm working on right now with different people. And I want to put yeah, that's right, Lo. Hit the bell icon when you subscribe so you don't miss the notification. Good point. Thank you. Yeah, I have some spiritual projects that I'm working on and some community projects. We really, we're nation building, so it's not just, I'm not a YouTuber, as I've said many times before. So there's way more that happens outside of YouTube, so that's one thing. But the other thing is, I warned you that there was coming a time when I was going to be less accessible. And a lot of people have still wanted readings and things because they want to skip over the character development that I've been talking about for 25 years. Just 25 years. And you should be able to see now in the community that that's over. That's over. Still trying to do magic and stuff to get over, or still just living an unrighteous life and then coming to me to clean up your unrighteous consequences is not going to work, because you can't escape your consequences because of what you're made of. You're made of content that always unfurls what happens in the mind. So just like in the beginning, the Most High said, "Oh, Israel's going to go through some crap, but they're going to still keep the law. They're going to come back to the law." Yeah, that's happening. And the beauty of the internet and all these digital platforms is it's speeding that process up, because people can study at a rate that they never could before. Like, I can tell you, look this up in Hebrew, you go do it right now. You don't have to like go buy Hebrew. I still have my dictionaries and stuff, but that's because I come from that era. But I don't. They're packed away. I don't even have to use them anymore. Like, I can just go look up a word if I want to go look up a word, right? But we're just in a space, people, where it's time to be a lot more serious about righteousness. And this concept of I'm doing what I want, I listen to myself, but then when things fall apart, I secretly go sneak over to Chief. Chief, what should I do? The ark door is closing. I've been telling you that. A lot of you say, "Oh, I've been following you for a while. Why didn't you sign up for Our New Global Ministries? Why didn't you join the ministry?" Because you didn't want the responsibility that comes with being a part of the ministry. You women didn't want to cover your hair or this or follow the law. You men didn't want to stand up and be real men and be consistent, because you're demonically possessed. You are ruled over by your demons, and I won't do anything for you going forward. That era is ending. I have to tell you. For coaching and counseling and stuff, yeah, I'm there to a small degree for that, because most people I don't take on as clients anymore, because my energy has to shift now. We are building a boat, and we're getting on the boat at this point. So for people still coming and you trying to get readings and stuff, that's done. You can't keep doing the same thing forever. You got to elevate, and like I said, consciousness unfurls. I've been teaching you for all these years, all the podcasts and everything. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. You don't apply it, and then you say, well, I'm not going to apply it, but let me see if I can get a read. It's not going to work. I'm telling you. So people have been in my inbox a lot. Like, I'm trying to book a reading. I can't book a reading. Yeah, there's no space on the calendar. The calendar's packed. I'm booked. I'm booked up. And after these next sets, I'm not going to be taking on anybody for a while, even for a little hour here, 45. I'm not doing it, because I've already given you the majority of what you need to fix what's going on. So you don't need readings. You got to stop looking for these lesser spirits to give you answers that the Most High has already given you. I've been telling you that from the first Orisha show. From the first one, don't worship these beings. Don't worship these beings. Don't get stuck. Don't get stuck. Don't worship these beings. So now I have to enact more harder protocols. So that's why I have not been as present for some of you who've been trying to reach. I've seen some of your messages, but we're done with that. We're done with that. You got to get right, man. You got to live right. And if you ain't living right, you're going to be screwed. Look at what's happening. What's happening? Look. Especially for those of us who are New Yorkers, man. Look what happened. Yo, I think the death toll is up to 30 now. One of the things that I always brag, because I'm not into regions. I joke around, oh, y'all from down south. But I really don't care, honestly. Because how you going to be yo, my plantation better than yours? It's stupid. I don't do that. But truthfully, I have always said, well, one of the cool things about New York is we don't really have natural disasters, right? My basement got flooded. Yeah, I got flooded. The subways. I mean, you see the video, you look online of the dude in the blow up little raft, and he's in an alleyway, and he's just floating, right? In the middle of that, we still got, Divock. Let's go backwards with it, all right? And at some point, I'm gonna break down Divock to you in Hebrew. That's actually a real word. But I gotta be so they keep finding me, my little tiny little channel, and they keep finding me every time I try to teach you something that is really important, like Divock, D-I. Well, yeah, I said it right. Yeah. I'm not even gonna spell it actually. Let me leave that alone. But yeah, you spell it and you know what word it is, right? If you look up the word in Hebrew, you'd be surprised what it means. Kind of like the 9/11 one, right? But the thing is, we're at a time now where you got to wake up, man, or you're going to drown. The flood is here. This is just a sign of things. Yeah, we've had floods before. This ain't first time. We've had our subways flooded. So that's not the first time that's happening. You know what I'm saying? Just to be clear, for those of you not from here, it's never happened like this. It's never been this bad. And then deaths, it's just been yo, dudes are swimming through the subway. Take the bus. It's been like that. Subways are crazy. All the rats are coming up. But deaths, Brother Randy just said 44 he saw. Yeah, I counted from yesterday. It was 30, so it's up now. You know what I mean? So that should kind of tell you, man. You heard the song that I did, Babylon is Fallen, or Babylonia is what I called it. Did you hear what I sung at the end? Head for the hills. I meant that, John. I meant that. Head for the hills. Head for the hills. I wasn't just trying to find something to sing that. No, head for the hills. And what did I fade it out singing? Do for self. Do for self. You can't rely on Babylon, man. That's one of the things that has occurred now, man. You realize that they're frantic. There's no leadership in this place. There's no leadership. Even when the other dude was there that everybody hated, you at least knew that somebody was doing something. Right now, you don't know what the heck is going on. Nobody knows. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no leadership. There's none. You know what I'm saying? So it's you really have to do for self. This is that season. So a lot of the things that have been taught and that I've shared, and especially for you men coming into manhood, you got to apply them now, man. I don't really have any rap for you at this point. I really don't. I don't want to hear any more beta male rambling. Yeah, man, my girl, she's still. I'm not interested, bro. I'm not interested. I got babies, man, and like I'm holding it down. Like, so that's what I'm on, and I'm still building family. Like I got women to manage and I got children to cultivate. I don't have time to be re-raising no adults who are hard-headed because they're so stubborn and don't want to submit to the law. You still trying to mix. I'm gonna get a little bit of chief y'all. I'm gonna get a little bit of this. I'm gonna get a little bit. You still mixing all the seeds together and then wondering why abominations keep coming forth in your life. What you want me to do? I don't even really want to talk to you, to be honest with you, because you're poisonous. Like I'm like a little nervous around you. Like, nah, man, I ain't touch not the unclean thing. You unclean. I don't really want you coming around, even on the phone. Like, nah. Go over there with that. Move around with that. So that's really where I'm at with it, man. So I just wanted to I meant to say that earlier. That's why, a lot of you, I haven't been as present as far as like being able to get in touch with me. And it's going to get even worse. Soon you're not going to see me at all. So I warned you before, I'm warning you again. Soon you're not going to be able to get me at all. You could always try to still register to be in the ministry or not. It's up to you. Doesn't matter to me, but that's where I'm at. So when I created I Knew and everything, it was to give a place for people. Hey, we're all over here. This is where we at. Come over here. And people wanted to be too cool for school. And I ain't doing all that, man. I'm repping myself. Yeah. But Chief, I need you. But I'm repping myself. Well, let me get in Chief's inbox. Nah, dog. Nah. Same thing with you sisters, man. I know a lot of hard-headedness, and I ain't gotta listen to nobody. Now, all right, well, you gonna drown. Go drown. But we're not available for anything else other than family building at this point. Because you see, in the beginning with Genesis, what is Genesis? Generations. Rosh, Bet, Rosh. Rosh is the second letter. What does Rosh mean? The head, the mind, the chief of the family. In the chief of the family, in the head of the family, in the father of the family. So everything that's spoken about is family. When you read, when we get to the second chapter, one of the first things that you're going to see is said is, and these were the generations of the heavens and the earth, right? So what is generations? The family. These were the families of the heavens and the earth. So everything is family based. So people still trying to rock as lone wolves. If you could do it, go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? I'm sure. But don't pretend to be a lone wolf, but then be trying to run, getting readings and stuff, and then you barely listening to the reading. You taking half of that and then doing some of it. You're like an energy drain, and that little bit of bread ain't worth it. So, yeah, man. I've told you for years, I really don't need to do the readings. It was a service. So with that, I just wanted to put that explanation. Some will see it, some won't. But a lot of people have been in my inbox. Chief, I'm trying to get in touch. Your calendar is packed up. Yeah, man. You know why the calendar is packed up? Because everybody's panicking. Everybody's panicking. They people could feel like, yo, the world is different. It's different now. Like my man H, like I ain't even breathing the same. It's different. And it doesn't seem like it's going to go back to any normalcy. And the normalcy that it's returning to, I don't want. So what can I do? So yeah, I've been telling you. So in the beginning, in the mind of the creator, Israel kept the law. That's what you got to do, right? You got to go back to the law, because with consciousness, there is no law. I've said that before. One of the appeals to the conscious community or conscious groups, there ain't no community, is that there's no rules. There's no law. You do whatever you feel like, whatever. My ancestors told me this. You lying. You've never spoken to your ancestors because you've never connected with your blood. So you lying. Probably a demon told you that. You just told yourself that. But who can refute it? Because once you say ancestors, it's supposed to shut the conversation down. Or once I started teaching people about Ori, they kept saying that to me. My Ori told me, shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about. You just, all these different excuses and reasons not to keep the law, and it's coming back on you. Now it's coming back. People, having some health issues, and, their money is drying up now. They I think tomorrow they end extended benefits, at least in New York, so I'm getting calls on that. What should I do with my money? I got this, I got the little bit of loan thing. So how do I invest it, Chief? What I told you what to do, 2018, 2019? I told you first quarter 2020, something ugly is coming. I said that, right? I don't remember the date was, but it's the video, because it was early in the dawning. I was doing my dawning readings, and I still had I had a black tank top on in the video. The lights are dark. I'm in the shrine, and it's a short video, and I told you what to do. Then I did a follow-up video after that where I'm dressed properly, and I'm like, all right, this is what's coming. It's gonna be floods. It's gonna be famines in the Midwest. It's gonna be this. It's gonna be that. I told you in that video, hard commodities. What are hard commodities? You get some gold, get some food is a hard commodity. That's hard commodities. These are the investments that you need to make now. I told you what to get. Then 2020 came. See what happened, right? So I'm consistently giving you prophetic words, and you thinking it's just some YouTube entertainment. It's just on YouTube because it's easy. And I knew we use a different program. We don't use YouTube. It's private. We pay for it, But so I'm telling you another prophetic word. This is a time now that you get back to the law again, man, because we are about to go into a very lawless place, and you're seeing hints and glimmers of it. And these little hints and glimmers are the blessing, because these are the opportunity to get right. That's what the blessing represents. Is like, oh wow, the floods. This is what a flood could feel like, and it could be worse than this. We only talking about what happened in New York. New Orleans, here we go again. You know what I'm saying? Like, still out, still no power. You know what I mean? They caught it again, once again, and we just came out of the Haiti. Like Haiti just got hit, then New Orleans, then you know what I mean. So yeah, it is a purge. It's a purge but it's like the righteous will persevere. So you can't keep dipping and dodging now in and out of the law. So that's why I'm giving you Genesis. I'm giving you the way that your preacher never gave it to you, because your preacher was lying to you. I'm giving it to you the right way, in the mind of the Elohim. Who are the Elohim? Your divine parents. Who else are the Elohim? The gods and goddesses, sure, whatever. The deities, sure. The angels, the host, yeah. But the bottom line, what are the Elohims? What you come from. That's what the Elohim are. And in the beginning, in their mind, in the beginning, they created a superconscious and a subconscious. And they knew that you, Israel, Isis, Ra, and El, or Isis, or Esha, El, which is the important one. That deals with the marriage. Israel would keep the law. And what is the law? The law is everything that was spoken. When he was like, let there be order, let there be this, let there be that. You do this after your old kind. That was the law. You're going to keep that law because I gave it to you in the beginning. What did I give you in the beginning? Get with your own. It's almost embarrassing to say it, right? Because you're like, yo, shoot. Didn't Elijah Muhammad say that? Like 70 years ago? And we still got to say it? Like, get with your own. Why you keep running from your own? Get with your own. And stop falling for the loose interpretations of how you connect with your Elohim. I said that to a member recently. Like, that's one of the biggest tragedies we ever got hit with. Everybody experiences God in their own way, and no, that's bullcrap. You can worship God however you want to. No, what are you talking about? Every single way, worship means to ascribe to the qualities of something. So I could worship a blanket. I could worship, or like rerun, a head of cabbage. You know what I mean? Like, I could worship anything. And I can then take on the qualities of that particular thing. How do I receive the qualities? Through the ruach, or the spirit of that thing, or the breath of that thing. If I'm in front of you and I'm speaking to you and you're taking on my energy and you're like, yeah, 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 and you're allowing your mind to be impregnated by what I'm saying, you're taking on my character. That's why you notice sometimes you get a friend, or someone you admire, you start acting like them sometimes, or in certain moments you find yourself laughing like them or saying a joke like them or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just one day I heard my son. He was in a room with his friends, and they was talking about something, and I heard him say, "That boy ain't right. That boy ain't right." I say that to him all the time, like about himself, like something wrong with him. That boy ain't right. And then he's saying the same thing to his friend. Cause why? He's taking on my spirit and my characteristics. You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing. You know, we serve God however we feel like. Man, that came from people who were godless. You learning from the wrong people. These are people who never had the connection. These are the people who were not in the garden, because these are the people who were not of the divine line. They were not of Adom. Adoma is blood. Dome, blood. Look it up. You don't believe me? Everywhere. That's why I gave you all the words. You can look them up. Because I didn't add anything. Like now I'm talking. But all that 2 hours before, I'm just reading. Here's with this word. Reading. Here's with that word. I'm giving it to you straight. Right? But my point I'm saying is that we weren't taught things this way because you weren't taught that, yeah, there is a chosen people. That's real. That's real. Right? It makes sense. You think about it. You know what I'm saying? Like when I leave the lab and I leave my children there, I let them know, like, yo, I let them know who's in charge. Yo, you in charge. Don't let this, that, do that. Don't boom, 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 boom. Stay out of my room. Right? So if that's easy to believe that somebody would do that, why is it hard to believe that the Elohim, the parents, said, here's a place for y'all to be. This is a playroom. I'm gonna make a playroom for you, and you in charge. There's gonna be a whole lot of other children that's gonna come in and out from other places and things like that, but you're in charge. You see? And then what happens when they see that the people they left in charge are being treated like garbage? Let me come home and somebody's lighting up, some herb or something, and my children like, nah, you can't do that in here. They like, I F you, I'm gonna do what I want. Somebody catching charges. What? They told you don't, and you still doing it? You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, you abusing who I left in charge of what I own? It's not like it's yours, it's mine actually. And I'm just letting you be here. and you're abusing that. What you think is gonna happen? You know what I'm saying? Or what happens is that the people who are the abusers, we want to assimilate. We want to assimilate with them because we didn't know to read the first line as Bereshit. We didn't know that. And then we were tricked into believing that Israel is somebody else. So with that concept right there, now it's like, oh, good, I ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm going to go do some African consciousness. No such thing, as I've said many, many times over and over again. There's no such thing as that. That's a trick bag. African religion. That doesn't even make sense. There's countries there. So which country? And then even if we live in the same country in Africa, doesn't mean that we do the same thing. African traditionally we did all kind of stuff, and some of that stuff was wrong. That's why we are here now, because we took on wrong things, because we started off pure, traveled throughout the continent, and instead of teaching as we were designated to do, teach. Go show them how to do this. Go show them how to work with the wind. Go show them, because remember, I gave you dominion over all of that. You go show them how to do that. No, don't worship the dog. Don't worship the hawk. You got dominion over it. Don't worship the hippo. You got dominion over it. Don't worship Sobek, the crocodile. You got dominion over it. Don't worship Sekhmet. You got dominion over it. Don't worship Happy. You got dominion over it. Instead of teaching, we fell into the same trick bag. We broke the law. It's simple. It's not really that complicated. It's really simple. So does it mean that those things that were there were evil? Not necessarily, but our approach to them was evil. A hammer is not evil, but if you worship the hammer, then yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, you did something wrong. Because at the end of the day, if heaven and earth is in your brain, and we're told that in my house, my father's house, there are many mansions, I go to prepare a place for you. We're speaking about the consciousness that becomes the abode of the Most High. So then what becomes the abode of the beast? Those errant, disruptive thoughts. So you can create a home for either one within your higher or your lower consciousness. My lower consciousness, I'm going to build a house for the shadow, which is Satan. Or my higher consciousness, I'm going to build a house for the Father, which is not the Elohim, but the Elohim, Yahuwah. So it's different. Now that's when we get a separation, but that comes in chapter 2. So I just wanted to share that because some of you may be listening, and people have sometimes asked, like, well, it seems like you're going a different direction. I'm not going a different direction. I'm just making what I was saying before more clear, because if you go back to the first segments, the Orisha segments, you hear me breaking down Kabbalah, the Tetragrammaton, using words like Yahweh and this, and it just is like, I don't want to hear that part. One ear, not the other. So now it's like, no, you're going to get this work like this because I can't trust you to properly interpret things. I got to give it to you straight. So this is what is straight. You got to get back on the path of the law. You got to build families. You got to get back to the Genesis mindset, and you have to be righteous. If you don't, then you're going to be screwed. And people like me who are light holders are disappearing. That's why you're seeing all of this calamity in the conscious community. Look at all these people who are going under now. You got, the coke addict who's still trying to collect school donations. You got the other coke addict, who's having issues with his child's mother, and that's become public, that all the stuff that he's been doing. Then you got the child molester, rape/rapist, scam artist, and I think his court date was the 11th. It's on his no, he got arrested on his Earth Day, I think. It's coming up, though. You got situations. I mean, we could just go through the list. Like, I'm not using names, but you all know who I'm talking about. Like, every person, the other old crack abuser, who's got the huge channel that everybody came through. His stuff is coming out. It's leaking. Everything's leaking. And mind you, you never heard me big up one of these people. Now, people and I know, like I've said, like, don't mess with that one, that. They all crooked. The only person there's only 2 people I'll say that you've ever really heard me say by name that's solid, that I've rocked with personally, is Marlene Baruti and Dr. Aline Bey. Those are the only names you've ever really heard me say. And you've heard me say, yeah, I really love Amos Wilson. Where he's going now. Frances Cress Welsing, loved her. She's also gone. But you never heard me speak fondly about anybody else in the community. There's a reason for that. Because I'll be straight up now. I'm not going to say names, but I know they all dirtbags. I know them all, and they all know me. You don't see me flicked up in any pictures with anybody or anything. Because when the cameras come, I step on. Nah, I don't want to take no picture. Because why? I don't want to give you the wrong impression, because people will do that. And I've had people do it already. Oh, yeah, I studied with Chief. You did not study with me, Jack. No, you didn't. Don't use my name for nothing. Because I know these dudes. You see? And I know these sisters, quote unquote, these women. 99.9% of them are scumbags. Straight up. They're scumbags. And if you have the ability of discernment, you would see it yourself. And that's what Genesis is dealing with. When you're mixing things, you lose the capacity of your mental energy, because that comes through taking on Christ consciousness. When it says faith come by hearing and hearing coming by the word of God, what it's saying is that faith, which is logical thought that removes the chaos of emotion, that's faith. Logical thought comes by hearing, and hearing comes from by the word, but when it's speaking about the word, it's speaking about the emulation of Yahushua. Logical thinking comes by hearing. Hearing comes by Christ consciousness. So the more you do that, and when it says hearing, it's not speaking about like, boo. I heard you say boo. It's talking about first eye vision. It's talking about the pineal. So hearing is not. It's like when the word says, "Some hath ears to hear." That's what it's talking about. It's saying that you all heard me, but only some of you hear the vibration that exists under what I just said. Only some of you, like we say, only some of you peep game. We all heard the same thing, but some of you really actually heard what's going on. Well, how do I get that intuition? Is there a ritual I do with it? Christ's character. Faith come by hearing. Okay, logical thought. So I can think logically through hearing. Well, what is hearing? Well, hearing is first eye vision, being able to see things, as you say in 120, the eye, right? Eye represents the first eye, or what you call the third eye, or the pineal. Being able to peep what's happening underneath the external expression. What is the mind that is producing this? Well, how do I get that? By the word of God. Well, what is the word? Yahushua. By the word of Yahuwah. By taking on the character and the consciousness of Christ. Then I get this psychic ability, which allows me now to think more logically instead of being emotional all the time. Half the time when people talk about these conscious crooks, what do they say? I like so-and-so. I like them. I stand with so-and-so. I like them. That's my man right there. Or I like her. That's you emotion, But let's really look at this logically. Let's look at, a lot of these people is like, how do you got so much time to be on YouTube all the time? And you always talking about you, like the one little dude, I'm here for the people, family. I'm doing this for the people, family. That's all I'm saying. What are you doing for the people? You charge for everything you do. How are you doing something for the people? What people are you talking about, first of all? Who? But you charge for everything. So what are you talking about? Like, we don't get nothing for free. And then you just giving a bunch of information that don't mean anything anyway. The people you have on your platform, you just grab anybody. And yes, he has tried to grab me more than once. In fact, I had to check him. I'll tell y'all a quick little story. I don't think I ever said this. Years ago, this is going back to, because I've known, for some of you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say a name though. But he's got a platform. He brings a lot of speakers on his YouTube channel and stuff. And everybody knows him. You got to go through, he's the gateway. And years ago, when I first started doing the Enlightenment and Transformation series, I was at my house and my cousin pulls up and he's like, yo, you got to hear this, man. I was just down at so-and-so's because he has a table he used to sell out on the street. I was at so-and-so's table. I ain't going to say his name. And yo, he got this CD. This dude was breaking down like how astrology links into all these different old avatars and how these avatars, you can command them and this and that and that. I'm like, word? I'm like, yo, pop that in. This is days of CDs, right? He puts it in. Greetings. Welcome to Enlightenment and Transformation. This is Chief Yuya. I said, bro, how you not know that was my voice? He was like, yo, I didn't hear it from the beginning and the cars was outside and everything. I just heard a little bit of it. It sounded kind of like you, but I didn't know it was you. I said, yo, I get these, this is for free. I do this for free on the internet. Like, yo, dude, he downloaded and made CDs out of them? Hopped in the whip. It was like, yo, he was out there at the table. I was like, yo, what are you doing? Yo, I'm doing it. I was like, yo, first let me tell you something. Don't get loud with me, B, because let me not say what I said, because it's about to go somewhere else. But bottom line is I walked away with all the CDs, and I didn't pay for them. I walked away with every CD and was like, this better not ever happen again. Right? So that was let me see, when did I start doing those? 2010? Yeah, it was around there. It was like around, because it was when I first started doing them. It's like 2010. Yeah. And he was selling, said, just, I'm doing this for the people. No, because I had that issue, but my issue was quick. I went down there, we hopped in the whip, and I was like, yo, let me go get my boots. I went and put my boots on and was at the table in like 10, 15 minutes. You know what I mean? And he tried to, people get scared, they try to bar. I was like, yo, listen, let me tell you, that's not the route you want to take. You don't want to do that. That's not the route you want to take. And yeah, he yeah, he knew what was up, and then I remember like shortly after that, Ashra Kwesi went through the same thing with him. He was selling his DVD, and Ashra Kwesi had he used to do these really nice like slide presentation, because he'd go back and forth to Kemet. Like I'm like, he puts a lot of work into those. Like him and his wife, like and you just took them, and what's the name checked him for it? Sarasut and Seti was like, yo, you gonna stop selling the elder stuff. But he was doing the same thing too. But anyway, I won't get onto that. But the point I'm saying is that I know all these guys. I just don't mention their name because I don't want you ever lumping me in with them. Because I know them. I know their secrets. I know there's going to be more stuff that's coming out because everything comes to the light eventually. I know their secrets, and they have never been the answer. I'm telling you, you can look at their character, look at their lifestyle. They have never been the answer because even the ones that look like they're doing right, they put too much on display. And if you truly are revolutionary or truly in this work, you know that most of what you are and what you do has to remain secret. I've heard that before. Like somebody saw the music video I did recently and was like, "Oh, finally we get. It's good to see that you got a woman in your life." I didn't even respond. I was like, "Yeah, okay." Like you don't know the difference between like it's a video, like I'm singing and yeah, like I know the woman and everything, but like you think I don't have a woman in my life because I don't parade one on camera? I don't do that because I protect the women in my life. Because this can be a very cruel environment. Trolls say stupid things or whatever, and the times when I did have my women doing those segments and stuff like that, it used to really burn them out. They'd be like, yo, this is hard. People say some really stupid things, and it's like, yeah, I don't even want you to be exposed to that. So you notice, like, I don't do that anymore. So, and it, like, you ain't gonna know who I'm personally with because it's not really anybody's business. I'm not using my family to sell anything, or yeah, I am plural. I do have multiple women, but you ain't gonna see me like with both women like this and like, yeah, join I knew you can get too wide. That's corny. You know what I'm saying? Why would I do that? Like anybody who's bragging like that about plurality ain't really doing it because it's nothing to really brag about. It's not easy. You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, that's just, why would you put people out front? I see people put their children out front and stuff like that. That's super dangerous. If I always had videos and stuff and, my son and my daughter is right there. Like, I got one video with my son where I'm teaching him how to drive. And it's kind of in the shadows, so you ain't even like seeing him. But he's out there now because he models. He be taking a bunch of Fruity Loop pictures, man. That's a whole nother thing, man. We got beef right now behind that. But, so I'm like, well, he's out there now. He's on the cover of Vogue and he's with Calvin Klein and all these other designers. So I'm like, oh, he's there, in my image and in my likeness. No. But yeah, he still do that old fruity stuff, man. Because the bag is like crazy. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's hard. You know what I mean? Because if you even look in the video, right, where we driving, I'm teaching them, like, you ain't gonna have no car like this. Your first joint ain't gonna be like this. This dude went out and bought a joint like mine. Same color and everything. Because the bag is like that. So he's like, yeah, I got my luxury car. So, all right. So, people are tempted away by the beast. What is the beast? Materialism. It's set. It's the earth, but it's the materialism, heaven and earth. So you can be driven by heaven, or you could be driven by earth. Right now he's young, he's being driven by earth. He's going through his earthly journey to be redeemed back up to the order of heaven or the light of heaven. But anyway, like I said, I just wanted to share that. You might be wondering, like, why are we dealing with law and stuff? Like, what's up with the magic? Because you need law right now, because many people are lawless, and as a result, they lack vision. The law will give you vision because it gives you inner mentation. It gives you inner visualization, which lets you know, this is what I need to do next. I need to do that next. I need to move like that next. Because the decrees that are coming down from the principalities in high places are going to get you hurt. I think some of y'all realize that by now, right? You got that part, at least. Like, yeah, they don't know what they're doing, and they keep switching the thing up. Do this, no, do that, don't do that, don't do that. That didn't work. Try this, So at this point now, you have to learn how to tune back into that proper voice, and go back to those original orders that your original general orders that you had. They still work. They will still work for you. So that's what we on in Anu. You've been getting that with all the readings in Anu every time they up, and every time I'm speaking, I'm telling you, here's the patriarchal order. This is what you need. You need strong men at the helm. We have to go back to that. I mean, some of us I never left it, but you have to, instead of just looking at it from the external, like, yeah, chief is like that. No, you be like that. I'm not telling you got to be plural or whatever, but if you're strong alpha men always have more than one woman. I'm sorry. I know y'all look at it different, but you got to look at whose cultural context told you is something else than that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, that's not my culture. You know what I mean? Like, I'm stronger than them. I'm I have more sexual strength than they do, and more than most guys who rebel against it. Oh, you don't need more than one. No, you can't handle more than one. That's what it is. You probably can't hold the attention of the one that you got. I'm different. I'm different, because I'm pure. I was made in the image and likeness of the Elohim. I don't know what got in the middle of your path, you see? So in my image and likeness, I rain down. It's like I said, man, we'll get to the rain when we get to those later chapters, when the rain finally falls. But the rain is sperm. That's what it's talking about, sperm. Like I said, the earth was moist. There was a fog. There was a mist. It talks about the mist that was on the earth before, and then the rain finally came. Well, what was that mist? Well, when you have vagina, it's moist. It has the wetness there. It's keeping itself, the mist is keeping itself ready to receive something. And what does it receive? It receives the rain, which is the seed of its own kind. Now that seed or that thought of its own kind becomes an action potential that can now manifest itself further into its own kind. And now let us make man in our image. And then the process just keeps happening over and over and over again. Right? But anyway, like I said, we'll get to that in the later chapters. I will be returning at noon on Anu Life Global Ministries channel. You can get me there. I'll put a if I remember, I'll put a little post that says I'm over there now. I'm doing something. But like I said, if you subscribe and, like Brother Lowe said, hit the bell button, you'll be able to catch it. Yeah, I know they always look at the chat. I didn't look at the chat one time, man. So let me just go through it real quick. I know when the brothers do the reading, they ask. I didn't even ask the question. You know how they be like, all right, the question for the night. So yeah, they're more they're better than me. Antonio says, like a long game of telephone played over the course of history. Right. The first message is never the same once. I know you're talking about the translations. Exactly. But if it's etched in your heart, remember, earth is the pottery that has etchings on it. Adoma is the earth, which is man. So that means you have the writings already etched inside of you. That's what, so it doesn't matter if you get funky translations at the end of the day. Like, if you didn't have a Bible, you would still know how to get back to the law. It would come to you because it's etched inside of you. But the key is to prevent your ability from hearing and reading. Faith come by hearing, and hearing coming by the word of God. So if I can get you to act unlike what you're supposed to behave, you won't be able to read your own etchings. You won't look at your hand, right? I don't know which way y'all got to see it. What does that say? You know how, this is how I know I'm a God. What does that say? It might be backwards for you. I don't know. Al, A-L. What is that? I just told you. Al. Elohim. See what I'm saying? I saw that years ago. One day looking at my hand, I was like, oh. And then I remember I was with some people. I was like, yo, let me see your hand. And everybody didn't have it. I was like, well, I got that. And, oh, I'm God. You ain't. Go back to chat. Get these questions. But yeah, it's etched in you. The proof of it is right in you. Similar to a ripple in the water. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Brother Cruz. I'm sorry. I didn't look at the chat when it came. Let us, not I think we should, right? Because let us is law. This is law. Let us. And the letting, remember when you let, you're releasing. Let us make. Release the thought of man into a concept. MGC Randy says, is that a hint towards the dispensation of time? I'm sorry, brother. Sorry about that. I'm not sure. Because I took so long. Sorry about that, man. You can ask me tomorrow if you remember. Yeah, Shabbat Shalom. Yeah. Okay, so I think there wasn't too many questions, and hopefully it was easily understandable. But yeah, if you still have questions, if you want to rewatch it, and something comes up tomorrow, I'll be live again, and that'll be a little bit more directed too. All right, there'll be no commentary at the end. All right, but I just wanted to give rhyme and reason as to why you need to get on this wave. I've been inviting you into the water now for the past 11 years, at least online. I've been doing this way longer than that. But the ripple was about what was created now creating. Yes, it is that. Yes. Is it like the ripple continuing? Absolutely. What if I have Al only in my left hand? Well, brother, that means you're a devil. Now I'm playing. I don't know who you at. You figure it out. It's etched in your skin. What does the left hand represent versus the right hand? Why did certain archetypes lead with the left, instead of leading with the right? When you look in ancient Kemet, why was the man's left foot forward, right? What side is your heart on? You figure it out, right? Even though I gave you all those damn hints. But yeah, I'm sorry. I was answering the question. I'm sorry. What if the ripple? Yeah, it's rippling out. See, that's the whole key. If you understood in the beginning that Elohim was you saying, let us make ourselves in our own image. That's really what we're saying. But let us make blood for ourselves. Let us make plasma. So let us make man in our own image is saying, let us make a generation. So the Elohim is now saying, let us have a lineage. Because if we look at Elohim and we understand it as a ubiquitous entity, then we could probably see a level of equity among all archetypes, right? So somebody finally says, you know what, we should create a lineage for ourselves. Like we should have a line. Let us make man in our image and after our likeness. But not man, let us make Adom. Let us make the blood in our image and our likeness. But not physical blood, plasma blood after our... there was an old movie back in the days. Well, I think it did a remake, Ghostbusters. And they used to talk about ectoplasm, And of course, you watch the movie, just thought it was like, oh, that's just something from the movie. That's a real thing. Ecto, external, plasma. So ectoplasma is the energetic blood that's on the outside of your body. It's energetic. And there are certain entities, vampirical energies in the world that feed off of that energy. Right? You go into a space like when cops, when they run up on you and yo, they know you're afraid. Well, if you didn't do nothing, then we'll let you go. Well, I'm traumatized now. I'm scared. you know. So they feed off of that because it comes off of your skin. That fight, that just like your aura is, but that fright comes off, and they feed off of it. It's a form of blood. So those are people who we call like energy vampires, right? And they use different things to like to push it out of you, whether it's fear or whatever, right? But yeah, so that's the idea of let us ripple ourselves forward. But the ripple, the further away from us it goes, the slower and denser it gets, right? So it's just like when you have children. When you first have children, when they're young, they're high energy, right? And the high energy of the children, as they get older, they become stronger and more dense, but they become lower energy and lower energy, low until the balloon pops, and then they become high energy again, right? But without the strength. The strength is gone because now the spirit. So it's the same thing when the rippling going forward, it goes forward, it's boom, 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 then it slow, the frequency slows down. But the wavelengths get higher, right? So it's stronger, but it's less energy, it's less frequent, So yeah. All right. So I think that was about it. Further from source of light. Yeah, that's the last question I'm answering, Brother Cruz. That's all you get. All right. So yeah, so I think that's about it. Y'all ain't gonna be hammering me with questions all night. I don't know what you thought this. You get one question and one cookie. I'm like the old man with the questions. You get one. No, I'm just messing with you, but I'm not though. I'm not gonna keep answering these questions. So anybody else, if y'all good, like I said, I'll be around tomorrow. I know you're like, yo, his customer service sucks. I'm not a YouTuber. I keep telling you. You know what I'm saying? I don't have that YouTube vibe, man. They be telling all their personal business when they get on. How y'all doing this week? Yeah, I had to get my car fixed. I ain't like that, man. You gonna see this one little corner. You ain't gonna hear nobody else. You know what I'm saying? Like that's it. This is all you get. I ain't with it. All right, but anyway, man, I'll see some of you tomorrow, and maybe some more of you next Sabbath, and we'll get into chapter 2, where we're gonna go in another direction, right? I think you're gonna enjoy this, but you're definitely gonna be different by the time we're done. All right, so everyone enjoy your evening, right? And for those of us who are practicing Sabbath, enjoy your rest that's coming over the next 24 hours. And I'll see you soon. See you tomorrow. Peace.